I was alone in a house in rural Maine, and there was a bright light coming through the window, and I sat up in bed and looked out the window, and there were 5 gray beings walking towards the house. I was the only one in the house. So I heard a voice in my head that said, "Oh yes, they're here. Now is the time to put your head on the pillow and shut down."
No.
Welcome to Backpacker Radio, presented by The Trek, brought to you by LMNT. I am your co-host, Zach Badger Davis, sitting to my right is...
Hi, I'm Juliana Chauncey, a.k.a. Chaunce.
Happy 300th.
Happy 300.
We did it.
Happy Sparta Day to us.
We did it.
I can't wait to kick you into a giant hole to celebrate.
Was it an HR violation, the image that I sent to you and the whole group like a couple weeks back?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think that's like the least of all the
okay.
violations we probably have.
I sent the 300 poster with Chaunce's face on it. And then after I sent it, I realized like the protagonist was, how do I say this? It could have been interpreted poorly, so I'm glad you didn't take it that way.
I didn't even notice that. What, do you have big boobs?
Well, yeah. But like man boobs, pecs.
Yeah, that's what I have is big man boob pecs.
Yeah.
So when you see those, I want you to think of me. Yeah, no, I was more disappointed because my Photoshop job that you did felt rushed, but when you put your face in there, it just like looked better. Not because you looked better, please don't get me wrong. It was because your head fit the hole better.
Yeah.
So I just think you put more time and effort into yourself.
I put very little effort into both. Thank you very much.
Okay.
But, the trick is to make the top layer semi-transparent. That way you can see the size exactly.
Right.
And I don't think I did that on yours. So maybe the head was a little bit off.
So maybe you tried a little less on mine.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, that's only for internal eyes to see anyways. And to celebrate the 300th episode, I just made this up, but I think we should each get 3 spins to dish to the other person at any point during the episode. They can be utilized at any point. I could say we could do 300 spins, but I think that might get a little distracting for the listener.
Are we each spinning 3 times now and saving our answers to give the other at like their most vulnerable, or are we spinning as we go?
Spin and execute simultaneously.
Am I spinning and giving you what it lands on, or am I just saying, hey, spin?
You're dishing a spin. So, for instance, spin. This is one of your 3.
Oh, okay. So now I will spin.
Yeah, and you'll have to do whatever it lands on.
Check out our YouTube if this feels weird. Oreo!
All right. Got let off easy. Well,
Zach, could you please spin?
I would love to. All right.
More Oreos.
The Wheel of Fate really wants us to get fat, and I will gladly oblige.
I've been there before. I'm happy to go back.
Yeah. Have never left. All right.
Sorry, you want to spin?
Oh, for myself?
Yeah.
Actually, you know what?
If you don't get Oreo, you can give it to Zach.
Okay.
Or Chaunce. Let the record show.
I got Oreo. Okay.
It's the safest spin I've ever seen.
I know.
What are the odds here? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, we're gonna run out of Oreos before we run out of spins, I think. So.
We started them on Wednesday.
So we have half of these, so 50% chance of landing on Oreo. We just rolled 3, and they were all Oreo. What are the odds of flipping heads 3 times in a row?
Are you going to spin it? Oh, I thought you were actually asking me the question. Like, are you going to spin it 3 times in a row to prove me wrong?
I think.
Aren't they good?
I think the probability is the same. 12.5%. So yeah, the Wheel of Fate really wants us to get fat, and it is doing that. A few reminders before we get to today's interview. First is we're going to Trail Days, AT Trail Days.
Woo!
Hit us up if you know someone going this year that you think we should talk to. Always happy to take your guys' recommendations. We are starting to fill that roster. Jess actually gave me a nice list of people to add.
Good.
So we'll definitely be busy on the podcasting front. Also, swing by the Trek/Backpacker Radio's booth. We'll be there.
Yep.
Chaunce and I will be in and out, obviously recording podcasts, but this will be your opportunity to meet Jess.
And if you have any chaotic ideas that you would like to see implemented, we have done watermelon thigh smashing for 3 years in a row. Last year, we wanted to do bobbing for hot dogs. No, 2 years ago. And then we sadly realized that hot dogs don't float, so we had to scrap that one. And then we did a butter eating contest.
Yeah.
Which was great. That was phenomenal. So if you have any unhinged...
You haven't sourced any of these ideas. I mean, the watermelon smashing was kind of Quadzilla, but...
The other ones have just been like...
You've sourced these yourself.
Yeah, and the weird parts of my brain.
I almost don't want you to take any sort of listener submissions because I want this to come directly from the DOC.
Okay, I'll continue.
What ideas do you have brewing for this year?
None. I usually wait till the last minute and then just have a moment of creative thought.
Yeah, the procrastinating panic spurs the best creativity.
Okay.
But yeah.
Never mind, I don't want your ideas, I guess.
No, you can share your ideas, and then I'll take credit for them. You get to meet Jess, and we'll have a limited amount of brand new, exclusive, exciting swag for this year's class of thru hikers.
Wow.
Yeah. And all Trek people will get access to this as well. So we'll have more details for that as we get closer to trail days. Next item is sign up for the Trek's newsletter. It's the best place to get the Trek's content, new job openings, and really any major announcements like our live podcast coming up in Austin, which is...
Selling out fast.
Yeah. That's we're 10 days from today. Yeah.
Today? We're still in March.
No. 10 days from the release of this podcast.
You pointed to the table like we were here. I was like, no way.
You interpreted the table point
way.
a little too literally there. 10 days from today, the release of this podcast. So if you're in Texas, happen to be passing through, or you want to make a long drive, we've had people come out for live podcasts from other states, other countries before.
And they've had a great time while they were here.
Yeah. No, we're going to make it worth your while. It's going to be fun. It's going to be the podcast of the year. Yeah, so make it happen. So join the Trek's newsletter and get your tickets to the live podcast in Austin. Both links in the show notes. Do you want to give another hint for our guest?
Ooh,
I'm sure this is someone you know. We'll talk about it off air, but do you want to give the hints that we have given?
You're expecting a lot. When I just confessed to you last time that my bad recall gives me anxiety.
Okay, I'll give the hints that we've given so far.
Why are you attacking me?
This gentleman he lived in Boulder for 20 years, no longer, somewhere in the Southwest. Ton of backpacking, Italian name. He goes by a five-letter acronym.
You never said it was an acronym.
Abbreviation.
You never said that. You stopped me before I could say that. We just said 5-letter name.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe that could be our hint.
Acronym is not the right word. Nickname.
Nickname
is the right word.
Yeah. Like trail names, but maybe not a trail name, but maybe a trail name.
Today's guest also doesn't know. That's good. We're keeping the suspense at a very high level. So new clue.
He has published a print book about backpacking.
True. I think multiple, if I'm not mistaken. I know I've read one of them.
He's published at least one.
And he's Italian. Did I say that one?
And he's Italian.
Yeah. Okay. We'll chat off air about it, I'm sure, And last but not least, apply to be a Trek blogger if taking on a long-distance backpacking trek in 2025. Okay, let's get right to today's interview with... He's back. This is round 2. Very excited for this one. The last one was during COVID times when we were doing remote episodes. He's in studio today. It's going to be fun. He's Mike Clelland, who is considered an expert in the skills of UL backpacking and is the author and illustrator of a series of instructional books on advanced outdoor techniques. Mike also wrote a book exploring the mysterious connection between owls, synchronicities, and UFO abductions. His newest book, The Unseen, is a paranormal thriller that features UL backpacking. Mike, thank you so much for joining us again on Backpacker Radio.
It's my honor. It's a joy to be here.
When you said round 2, I was hoping you'd say round whoo.
Chaunce.
You're missing the dad puns.
I was going to say.
Low-hanging fruit.
You are ready to be a dad. So let's start here. What have you been up to since we last had you on 2020? Is that right?
Oh, I think it was 2021 maybe?
Okay. One of the years.
It was one of the dark years. Yeah. So we know it was 2021 because I had moved and I remember doing it from that house.
Okay.
Yeah,
so catch us up over the last 3.5, 4-ish years, I guess.
During COVID, I wrote a novel, so that was a big deal. That was a huge change. There is ultralight backpacking in it. It sort of shows up unexpectedly, and so I guess you write what you know in a way. So there's the majority of the story is more along the paranormal lines of sort of the owl books. You said I wrote one owl book, and I've written 4. So
4 owl books.
So you stack those up, and the nonfiction is about 1,000 pages of nonfiction stuff about owls, and then you can add about 350. So it's 1,350 pages of owls.
You are prolific. How many books in total have you written?
Well, the ultralight, so I'm not that prolific compared to some people, but the ultralight backpacking tips I wrote that. There's a few books I co-wrote. There's a telemark ski instructional I co-wrote, and there's a teaching little kids to ski book that I co-wrote, excuse me. And then if you look me up on Amazon, there's about 40 books out there, but I was doing illustration work for instructional books for a long time. And I got kind of pigeonholed into, I was doing books where you would have, instructional books where you would have like 200 illustrations, cartoon illustrations. And that was a tough, like, that was the only thing on my resume in a way. So that, if you needed a book with 200 illustrations, there's only one person you'd call, and that was me.
Yeah.
So there came a day when I was like, I'll never do that again. So.
With 200 illustrations of cartoons throughout many of these book projects, what's the weirdest cartoon you've had to draw?
Well, I've done a lot of bathroom illustrations of like pooping instructions in various books.
Okay.
So there's those.
Yeah.
The Heavenly Butt Scuff, which I think we talked about in the last episode.
Okay.
So we could revisit that if you wanted to, but
sure.
It's in that book right there. So
yeah. We like to do a segment on this podcast called Fuck, Marry, Kill. Are you familiar?
No.
Okay, so you pick one to make relations to. It'll make sense in a second. Marry.
It's like Rochambeau? It's like...
in a metaphorical sense.
Okay.
You have to assign 3. It'll make sense in a second. So you pick one to have sex with, one to marry, and one to kill. So the example that I'm giving here is between illustrating, being an author, and podcasting. Which one would you fuck? Which one would you marry? Which one would you kill?
I would kill podcasting. I'm
Okay.
very poorly suited to be a podcaster. I do it because I want to talk to the people, and then illustration would be. Wow, I guess I don't really do much illustration work either. So can I kill 2 of them?
Never heard that before.
I think we've had people ask if they can fuck multiple, but never.
Okay, yeah. So yeah,
You just hate my hobbies.
Yeah, just a group.
So
murder.
but yeah, so the romantic one would be the writing.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
And so that's in a way, even though I wrote some of these books 20 years ago, I still don't think of myself as a writer. It seems
What would
like
it take for you to consider yourself a writer?
I took it on so late in life. I was like 50 years old or so when I, so it felt like I at my core I'm an illustrator, but I don't draw much anymore.
Yeah.
And so I still think of myself more as an illustrator. So, but I do when I fill out my tax returns. They ask your occupation. I put author, illustrator. I used to put author, illustrator, outdoor educator. Mm-hmm. I filled up the whole little box there. So
yeah. I also noticed that you don't include ultralight backpacking tips on the list of books on your website. Is that you don't want to be associated with...
Wait. Oh, no, you know what? I'm just pushing the other books. You know what? I'm just promoting the other books more because I'm more interested.
Yeah, but you have a tab for books, and I've got the newest one, The Unseen. I've got the Owl books. Nothing about backpacking.
There is in the Unseen, there's some backpacking in there, but honestly, those 4 are self-published books.
I get it.
And then the other one gets published through another publisher. And
so you actually get paid when a book gets sold.
I get paid when the book gets sold. It's funny. I don't want to talk smack about someone who's helping me pay my bills, but the royalty difference is remarkable.
Totally.
Yeah. Like shockingly remarkable.
I get a lot of emails from folks who want to publish their memoirs and are always asking for like small independent publishers that they should reach out to if I have any connections. And I'm always like telling them self-publish. Like you're gonna end up doing most of the work regardless. Yeah. Like you might as well pay yourself for the books that get sold.
Well, we had that same exact conversation because I came to you and asked when I did Hiking from Home, and you were the reason I was like, all right, after this, I'm going self-publishing.
Yeah. The service that most publishers provide is not worth it, in my opinion.
Unless you're Michelle Obama or Stephen King.
Yeah. If you can get like a $3 million advance, it's a different story.
Yeah,
but yeah, at our level, probably not going to happen.
Yeah. But on the topic of people having that thought often when they get off a trail is, I want to write a memoir. Should I self-publish? Should I traditionally publish? As someone who's done both, what are your thoughts and feelings towards each?
Well, I was going to interrupt you, and I'm glad you asked exactly the question that I was going to. So we did this perfectly.
Our minds are synced.
Yeah, we're locked there. I have been, as sort of a little side thing, I have been doing the interior layout of the print books. So how the pages look, how the texts look. So if you pick up a self-published book, you must know the feeling. You open it up, and you must know in about a half a second, like, ooh, this was self-published. My goal when I do the interior layout, choosing the font, choosing the line spacing, how the chapter headers look, how the where the page number is, and I want someone to open that book and say, ooh, if you open a book, it should be invisible. It should never cross your mind whether it was self-published. So I want it to be invisible, and you just feel like you're holding a plus top shelf book in your hand that was published by, one of the world's leading publishing houses, although it is self-published. So that's been a goal of mine. If there's a lot of pictures in it, it gets really complicated. But if there's no pictures in it, like a memoir without any pictures, it's pretty straightforward, and it makes a huge difference, I think, as far as the feel of the book in your hand. So what was your question exactly?
Pros and cons of self-publishing.
There are no pros to working with an organized publisher.
Well, that's not true, because then you wouldn't do it. You're working with a regular publisher on some of your stuff. Well,
that was done before the era of desktop publishing. Those books, if you look at the publication dates on those are that I had a relationship with Falcon Press, which was its own company back in, I don't know, good grief, 1995. I did my first book illustrations, and in the intervening years, that little publishing house got eaten by a bigger one, and that got eaten by a bigger one, and that got eaten by a bigger one, and now there's like this larger, and all I have to say, every time that happens, like when it comes time to pick up the phone and call someone at the publishing house, like they're harder to find. They're like, you can't get to them. You talk to their secretary and you can't get to so Falcon Press back in the 90s, early 90s, was run by a guy named George. He was in his had his office in his house, and so if he dialed his number, George was the only person who was going to answer the phone. So that was really easy.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah. So, and then a lot's changed since then. But at the same time, a lot has changed with the advent of self-publishing. It's remarkably easy. Now the problem is you're beholden as the author to do the things that a publisher would do. You really make sure there's no typos in there, work with an editor, have beta readers read the book beforehand and give you some feedback. So it's easy to publish a crummy book, and it takes a little bit of work to publish a heartfelt book. Even a poorly written book, if it comes from the heart, it right away. You can feel the passion in it, and so there's a reason to self-publish. It's democratized the process, because in olden days you would hand the manuscript into a publisher, and then they wouldn't get back to you for 6 months, and then they'd say, no, we're not going to publish your book.
So if you were to go back and, let's say in the days of George there was also self-publishing, would you have never gone down the traditional publishing route?
Well, that's hard to say, but given what I know now, yeah, I would not have. It would have been a little harder, because there wasn't the big behemoth of Amazon, where 90% of books, probably more than 90.
I'm saying, put George today, and you have not published anything yet. Today.
Oh, I would self-publish.
Okay.
Yeah, unless I got a $3 million contract from Houghton Mifflin or something. Yeah. So.
What would you say if someone was writing a memoir or a book about the trail and they wanted to publish it, and their concern with self-publishing was, how am I going to get anyone to read it? And they're thinking maybe traditional is better for getting it out there.
The traditional publisher that's going to publish someone's memoir of, let's say, doing a long trail, they're not the same. You're not working with the same publicity department that's putting Michelle Obama on an airplane so she can go to every Barnes & Noble across the country and go to Paris and sign books there and stuff like that. Essentially what they can offer you is nothing. Really nothing. And then it's totally 100% up to the author to hustle. And that's tough. So someone asked me, what's your marketing plan? like I'm like of the generation where I don't have the patience for social media. Like every once in a while I'll put a little post like, read my book, but it's not much. And so I said to this person who does marketing as a business, I said, I say yes to every podcast. And they're like, great.
Evidence
Yeah.
is you're here.
Well, this is a little funny because I did more than say yes to this one. I pitched it to you. Like I didn't wait for you to ask me. I like said, hey, can I be on your show? So
Yeah.
it's a little bit of cheating there. So.
We love having you on. But no, that's great advice for anyone that's an aspiring self-published author is you're going to have to grind. You're going to have to pitch and, try to get on
that
Backpacker
part
Radio.
sucks.
Yeah.
It's inevitable that you have to kind of do that uphill thing. But, if the statistics are pretty bad, actually, the number of the number of books that are published, how few actually get sold in any meaningful way. So, but it's a little bit of like street cred, and it's nice to say I'm a published author, and if you can give the books away, and so it's a really great feeling to have that book out. I've got some books that don't sell hardly at all, and I love some of the books that I've worked on that don't sell very well. So
Yeah, I think it's nice to have it so that you can always look back on it too.
Any recent owl encounters, personal owl encounters that have stood out to you? I guess let's maybe give like a quick primer for if someone hadn't listened to your previous episode. I think if we just
That's
dive...
a weird tangent.
Let's start with the primer here. Do you have like a elevator pitch thesis that you can offer to someone in terms of why you think owls are so special?
Okay, so this is so they're like how do you say this, because it's my avenue of study has been owls and UFOs, how owls and UFOs seem to be related. It's not 100% of the people who see a UFO will also see an owl, but it's surprising the number that will say yes. And I'm in a position now where I talk to people all the time who have had UFO contact experiences, and I ask everyone, have you ever had any odd experiences with owls? And if you go to my website or my blog, right at the top of the page it says, I want to hear your owl stories. You click and you get a little form. You can send your owl story directly to me. So if anyone anywhere in the world has an experience where they're like out in the backyard and there's an owl on the tree and the owl flies off and then a UFO flies over their house, flying saucer hovers over their house and moves on, they're going to say, that was really weird that there was an owl and a UFO. So I'm going to Google owls UFO. I'm the first thing that comes up. I'm about the next 25 things underneath that. You're doing it right now.
Don't talk to me. Just tell your story.
And then and at the top of my website it says, I want to hear your owl stories. So they send me. So I'm asking for these stories. I'm getting them. I'm getting a few a day. It ebbs and flows. For every once in a while I'll get about 6 a day. And then sometimes it'll go down to 1 a day. But it's usually most days of the week I get 1 or 2 A+ stories. And do the math. I've been doing this for 16 years.
It's like your own little newsletter.
Yeah, it's kind of unsettling, isn't it? Yeah. So, so like I am in this, I mean, the research community that does paranormal research and UFO research is pretty small, and I'm well known as the owl guy. And so you were asking for my elevator pitch. This is going on and on.
No,
and on.
this
We
is
got to
great.
really, we need to really
Don't
talk
change anything about it.
I want to go to the top story of the Sears Tower right now.
So consequently, I have been collecting owl stories. I have my own owl stories. I have one that involves, which I did not tell on the last show. I realized, so I got a good one that involves ultralight backpacking and everything that would encapsulate the mystery of the owl stuff. And so, with the elevators going up very slowly, I have been at the receiving end of so many stories that I now am able to kind of tap into the mood of these stories. That people contact me and they say, I had this experience. I don't know who to talk to. I can't tell my wife. I can't tell my boss, but I'm going to tell you. So they tell me the story, and then at the end they basically say, is am I alone? And I can reply, no, you are not alone. This is actually rather common. And I can, so then I'll dialogue with those people. And most of this is done on email. I talk on the phone a lot too, but the majority of it is through email. So you can, even through the email, you can just hear the person, feel the person go, oh, when I say you are not alone in this. And I'm at the point now where I feel that this is so it's not just owls and UFOs. We can get into this a little bit more. So there's other, what would be, let's say, mystical human experiences or highly charged human experiences that would involve owls. UFOs are certainly one of them. So I'm at the receiving end now. As I said before, it's turned into 4 books. 3 of them are the nonfiction books. Those are, that if you stack those up, it's 1,000 pages of owls and UFOs. And people say, hey, Mike, you going to write another book on owls and UFOs? And I'm like, nope. Like, if I can't say it in 1,000 pages, like, it's not going to do anyone any good for me to put more out, because it's going to be essentially the same story repeated over and over again. And then they'll ask, like, hey, do you have enough stories for another book? And I'm like, oh, good grief, I have, like, enough stories for 50 books.
One a year. I'd read it.
Okay, you would? You haven't read? Have you read my first one?
No.
Okay. I knew you hadn't, so that's why.
I didn't lie. Okay. But I like the idea of one a year, because I'd be absolutely hooked on those types of stories, as I am right now. So,
what are some of the themes? Obviously, the grand theme of the tie between owls and UFOs, but are there, like, specific categories? Like, if I see an owl in this context, that means I'm going to get abducted and probed. Like, are there any sort of, like, general trends between...
Zach's going to go looking for those owls.
Just pointing at perineum sunning at night. Yeah, I guess, are there any, like, consistent themes that you've seen in the story submitted your way?
There's certainly some consistent themes, yeah. And so there's 2... I don't know what I talked to you about the last time, so I just listened to it the other night. Now I'm blanking on everything because I talk about this so much. But there's 2 avenues of owl encounters when people have the UFO contact experience. And one of them is what I would call the real owl experience. And the other one would be, it's called the screen memory experience. Does this mean anything to you?
No.
Okay. So here's what's very common is people will be driving down a lonely road at night. They'll turn a corner and there'll be an owl in the road. And they will describe the owl as being 4 foot tall. The number of 4 foot tall owl stories I have is just like, I don't even, like, once you hear the 500th 4 foot tall owl story, you're like, okay, I get it. But they'll stop. The owl will either fly off or walk away or vanish. There's all kinds of variables here. And then they'll drive home, and they'll get home, and there should have been 10 o'clock, but it's midnight. Where did those 2 hours go? And then I've talked to the people who do hypnotherapy, a lot of them, and I say, hey, do you get any owl stories? And they, all the time. We get them all the time. We get the screen memory stories. And I'm, okay, what's going on with the screen memory stories? So they say, so the hypnotherapist, I've listened to the audio of these and read the transcripts, and it essentially goes like this. The hypnotherapy, the person's under hypnotic, they've gone through the induction, they're in a hypnotic state. The hypnotherapist says, okay, describe the owl in the middle of the road. And the person goes, well, it's about 4 foot tall, and it's got big black eyes, and it's got a bald head, and it's got this skinny body and these long skinny fingers. It's wearing this tight-fitting spacesuit, and I don't think that's an owl. So under hypnosis, they'll describe what we would call the prototypical gray alien, the alien that you, like, is on the snowboard stickers. Mm-hmm. So that is very common. The implication is that the alien is using some sort of psychic projection, so the observer doesn't see it as an alien. If you turned a corner in a car and there was a 4 foot tall gray alien with big black eyes and a shiny spacesuit on, you'd freak out. So instead, they somehow put it into your mind that you're seeing an owl. And that is very common. I got a lot of stories that are... So here's one. This involves camping. It's not ultralight camping. I know a woman very well. She's a good friend of mine. She was, I think she was 19 years old, and she was working at a summer camp for girls. And they were camping out in the wilderness. This is in the North Cascades. And they had just the way the tents were set up. Some of the girls' tents were over here, and some of the girls' tents were over there. So she was walking on the path that connected the two campsites. It was full daylight. Now, at this point in her life, she was totally 100% aware that she had been having UFO contact experiences, but they had always been happening at night. They'd only happened at night. And this would be the kind of prototypical story you would, see on late night documentaries and such like that. So she is walking on this trail, bright sunny day. She can hear the girls behind her. She can hear the girls at the camp. She turns a corner, and there's a gray alien standing next to the trail. Total sunlight, bright. She said they're like this. The head was chalky white in the sun, and it looks at her, and she looks at it, and there's like this. If I go too deep on this, you just slow me down.
Please.
So the people who have contact with the beings, nobody ever says, they talk back and forth to the being, but nobody moves their lips. It's all done telepathically. So if you were to let's say meet a gray alien on a lonely road, you could talk to them, but you wouldn't move their lips. It would just be direct mind-to-mind transmission of thought. So telepathic communication. So she sees this owl. It sees her. She is hit with this telepathic communication. Boom! Like she scared this thing, and it goes owl, 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 and then she watches it whoosh, morph into a 4-foot-tall owl, turns around and walks into the woods, as a big owl.
Wow. I'm like writing down my questions during this because I don't want to forget them, but I'm also like, I can't not listen anymore. Yeah. That's nuts.
I would take myself to an institute if that happened to me.
Yeah.
But if you sent me an email, and you said, Mike, here's my story, and you told a story like that, does this happen? I'm like, well, this happens all the time. Like, you are not alone. This is, and I could, I've done this before. I said, here, talk to this person. Here, take this email address, take this phone number, call this person. You talk to that person. And then they're like, oh, thank you for introducing me to that person. It's been so helpful.
Okay. Because you've talked to so many people with these experiences, have you noticed commonalities between the people? Like, how did the UFOs and the aliens choose who they contact? Like, how does the alien on the road choose which car they're going to let see it? Are there commonalities between those people or anything that would indicate if, like, you are prime for alien encounter?
If your parents had been abducted by aliens, that's a big one. You'd be prime on the list. It runs through, family history. It's
abducted and gone or abducted and put back?
Well, they have to be put back, yeah.
Okay.
So if they were just abducted and gone, how would you know? Because they would just.
I guess so. Okay, true. Put back.
So you have to come back. So that would be one. And then, so here's when people contact me. There's two things. So you're asking which came first, the chicken or the egg, right? So did the UFO contact, were they attracted to a personality type? Is there an abduction-prone personality type? Or is there a change that takes place after the contact experience that turns someone into this little checklist? So here's the checklist. When people reach out to me, this is what I ask. I ask 4 questions. I used to ask a lot more. I used to ask whether you're a dog or cat person. I found that was not valuable data at all. But here's the 4 questions I ask is, number 1, what was going on in your life leading up to the event? Number 2 is, how has your life changed after the event or since the event? And number 3 would be, how would you rate your psychic skills? And number 4 is, do you have any healing abilities? So given those 4, you can kind of get a pretty good idea of the kind of questions, what's happened. So it would be easier to answer how the person changes. And then, okay, so if I could roughly, it really runs through all, the president of the bank gets abducted, cops get abducted, sensitive New Age ladies in Sedona get abducted, truckers with tattoos that chew tobacco get abducted. It's like all across the map. But in the after effect would be the people become this is not 100%, but it's certainly a pattern. People become more spiritual and less religious. They often develop psychic skills, and they often start doing healing work, sometimes to the exclusion of everything else. They become healers, and that they. Do you know what Reiki therapy is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, did I tell you this the last time? I can't remember if I.
You've listened to it sooner than we have.
Okay, so I give the spiel a lot. So forgive me if I.
If we don't remember, neither will the listener.
Right on for them. So okay. So now I'm going right to the deepest waters in this research. I would argue that of the people of the people who contact me, who reach out to me, I'm going to say roughly 50%, if not 50%, could be more, but it's in that range. The people who have UFO and owl experiences are Reiki therapists.
Really?
So I will tell you 50% of the general population, 50% are not Reiki therapists. Here, can I tell a story?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why you're
I
here.
knew she'd say it. Yes.
I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm loving this.
So a woman contacts me. I love this story because I remember last time you said, are the owls bad?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
If they make you healers, you think they might be good.
Well, here's the story. You tell me at the end of the story.
Okay.
So this woman contacts me, and I talked to her on the phone. She's wonderful. And we're Facebook friends now. I like see her kids. I like see her kids graduating from high school and stuff like that. Anyway, she's a wonderful woman. She was pulling into her driveway. She was talking on her phone to her father. It was nighttime. She pulls into the driveway. She thought there was a little kid in the driveway. And then the thing floats up to the tree, and she realizes it's an owl. And she gets on. She says, she hangs up on her with her father, and she calls her son, who's in the house, and get out here, get out. There's a big owl in the tree. So they stand in the driveway, and the owl flies off the tree, comes by, and touches her head. So this owl touches her head, and her son is like, Mom, are you okay? She was like, oh, it was so gentle.
Oh.
So, I was like, oh, it's a nice owl. It's a nice owl. So there's a set of events that all sort of collide together, centered around this owl experience. That's if an owl touches your head, like you're like, that's like when I rate owl stories, like if an owl like touches your head, and I get a lot of them where they touch people's heads. That's a big red flag, or like a big.
Oh, that's bad?
No, not a red flag. It's a
green flag?
A green flag. It's a big green flag.
Unless you're a mouse, then it's a red flag.
Yes, then it is a red flag.
Yeah, so I pay very close attention. So, she goes to her son's Little League baseball game, and she's sitting in the stands, and there's a lady from the neighborhood. She doesn't know her very well, and she turns to her and says, hey, what's going on? How's everything going? And the lady goes, not very well. She said, I need a kidney. I need someone to donate a kidney or I'll die. And the lady, her name is Laura, she says, I'll give you mine. And I asked her, why'd you say that? And she said, I don't know. I just felt it was the right thing to say, and I still feel it's the right thing to say. So the lady says, well, it's not as easy as just that, because we have to be compatible, or I'll reject the kidney, so you would have to go to a doctor, you'd have to do a series of tests, take these blood tests. So she said, great, I'll take the test. So she goes to the doctor, takes the test, and the doctor gets the results, calls her up and says, hey, I got to ask a question. Is this your sister? And she goes, no. And the doctor says, I was actually going to ask, is this your twin sister? You are so perfectly aligned, so that we feel strongly that the body, this is exactly what we're looking for. So she ends up giving her kidney to this woman. And now there's all these things are colliding together, these events. At the same time, she would hike with her friend. She calls him her metaphysical friend, and they would talk on the trail about metaphysical subjects and stuff like that. So they do a hike. It's got hiking in it. It's got hiking where we're in. So they come on, they get back to the car at night, and they stand in the parking lot, and it's in the woods, and there's a little turnoff, and there's a little parking lot where the trail is, and they look up in the sky, and this big structured craft floats over, and they can see the outline of it because of the light, and it blots out the stars, and it moves past. And then this is something I've heard that a lot. You get that a lot. So, and then there's something that you don't hear very often, but I've heard it before. She said, you know what? When that thing passed over, everything in the parking lot turned red. The trees turned red, the sky turned red, the asphalt turned red, the cars turned red, everything turned red. And she has pictures of the asphalt. And it looks like, I mean, honestly, you could just take a picture of a parking lot and then take the little slider and turn it all the way red, but that's what it looked like. And I have no doubt that she was genuine in what she was sharing. So she's got an owl, she's got a UFO, and then I asked her, what were you talking with your dad about when you pulled into the driveway?
Oh.
She said, I had just made the decision that I was going to give my kidney away to this woman. And that's when the owl touched me on the head.
So she had the baseball conversation prior to the owl.
I can't remember the exact order, but she must have had the baseball conversation prior, because she was talking to her father on the phone about the donating her own kidney. So,
I think the owl made her compatible with that lady by touch, or what is
Maybe it was just like, hell yeah, good choice.
It could have been just like a little cosmic high five from the owl. So now I don't have to ask this woman, "Are you a healer?" Right? I mean, that's a pretty selfless form of healing. Like, I don't know if some stranger at the Little League baseball game, if they turned to me and said, "Hey, can I have your kidney?" I don't know what I would. I don't think I would be as selfless as Laura as was. Yeah. So that's a long story, but that is the flavor and mood that I recognize in these stories. So that story, I have a lot of stories. Some of them are very long. They're hard to tell, but that one I can tell pretty quick. But that one encapsulates the flavor and mood of what I am receiving. Now, I'm not looking at the big, here, you got video, I can put my arms way out. Like, here's the big UFO subject on a continuum, and it's like government conspiracies on one end, and it's those nutty ladies in Sedona on the other end that are chanting.
Who are these ladies in Sedona? I laughed the first time you said that.
Oh, have you ever been? You've been to Sedona,
I've not been to Sedona.
Crystals.
It's crystals.
Well, I
and
laughed
meditation.
when you said the sensitive something ladies in Sedona.
Yeah,
like,
they got the turquoise earrings. Yeah, actually, the ladies. They're all my friends, so I'm not making fun of them. I'm not being mean-spirited, but it is a recognizable subsection of the population of like, women who are, and it can be men, but I'm using a caricature, but women who are
like in touch with crystals,
in touch with their feelings, in touch with meditating, in touch with nature. Yeah, exactly, all of that.
Okay,
so
that clarifies that.
I have an easy question for you. In your opinion, what are aliens?
Ooh.
Easy question, sure.
So, okay, I'm going to go right to the deepest water. There was a book that came out in the late 60s called Passport to the Cosmos. I read it very early on in my was one of the earliest books I read when I started. This may not surprise you, but I got very obsessed at a certain point and read a lot of books.
You would say.
So that book argues that the modern UFO lore matches the ancient Celtic fairy lore. There's all kinds of similarities. The ancient fairies, there's all kinds of things about the fairies, that like little traditions. Yeah. And then they go to a land that's timeless. That's very consistent. So if you get taken to fairyland or Magonia or, then time stops in a way that doesn't match this reality, and that's something that is it's very consistent in the reports of people who have contact experience. There's this alteration of the normal linear time pattern. Time stops. It also stops for people who have the near-death experience too. There's the same thing. So there's this paranormal theme. So you're asking, where are they from?
What are they?
So that's a big question. And if you went to, so that's not an easy question. So if you went to, let's say,
it's a trap.
Like I'm going to a conference here soon, and it's a great big auditorium, and then everyone hangs out. And if you asked every single person in that conference that question, you would get a different answer from every single person.
Yeah. Where can we find this conference?
Oh, let's go.
Roswell.
Yeah, it's not. There is a conference at Roswell, but it's not. That's not the one.
Okay.
Though, so.
If, let's say, I had to put you in a situation where you had to put your life savings in one theory. What you personally believe. Okay. Not saying you have the answers, but like your gut feeling based on all of your research.
Okay, that's okay. So I'll give you so if I'm speculating, because I don't know, I would say that the ancient archetypal energy that created human mythology all throughout history, the myth makers, right? So if we went back to Athens 3,000 years ago, Mount Olympus, that's where the gods lived. I feel pretty strongly if you climbed up to the top of Mount Olympus, you're not going to meet the gods. But there was a mythology that emerged. There's a mythology that emerged among the Native Americans. There's a mythology that emerged, in the East. So there are these mythologies that have risen up for reasons. And I would say that the modern UFO occupant is the same mythmaker energy, simply revisiting us now with a different costume. They're not wearing togas anymore. They're wearing shiny spacesuits.
Why do you think that they stopped being the fairy sort? Because those ones are like cute and fun, and like you get excited about the thought.
Like if you go to talk to some old grandma in Ireland, they're
No, you
not
don't
cute and
think
fun.
they're cute
No,
and
you
fun?
don't want to mess with the fairies. The
Okay.
fairies are very vindictive and very, boy, if you so there's all kinds of traditions where, when you milk the cow, you always take a little cup and you set the milk out for the fairies. So if you don't do that, the day you don't set the cup out, whatever, then you break your leg or you break your arm. So this is the myth, this is the folklore. I can't speak to this as truth.
Chaunce has her own.
I'm used to the
folklore.
kids' books that are covered in glitter and they're
yeah.
pretty. But then I'm also used to the smutty books where they're like just these large, muscular men who are very naughty.
You lost Mike there.
So there's I'm not going to get into that now, but there is, there's one researcher who says, he's doing UFO research, and he kind of says, there comes a point when everyone's got the sex story that comes out.
Yeah.
So
we're gonna get sexy aliens.
And I'm gonna choose not to.
That can be your next book.
Oh,
Sexy aliens.
There's like it's so.
Well, probing is like a very consistent theme.
It's not really. I've talked to thousands of people. I've talked to two or three.
Yeah.
That it was part of. There was a book that came out in 1987 called Communion by Whitley Strieber, and there's probably 2 sentences in that book about probing. And then I've talked to one other person besides the author of that book, and I've talked to thousands of people. They might very wisely not ever bring it up.
Yeah.
They might.
Sure.
So, but that is. But there's certainly lots of stories. Wow, we're really getting off target. We could talk about.
No, this is
so
the target
there's
we were
lots
aiming
of
for.
yeah. So there's lots of accounts of sperm being taken from men and ovum being taken from women.
How?
In
Like, is the alien jerking the guy off, or is he just like voluntarily like have
no,
my
there's
sperm?
usually a machine that does it.
Oh.
Yeah, and the person is usually paralyzed, so they have no say in it, and it's
Maybe
not
an
a pleasant
alien
experience.
raped.
Essentially, yeah, it's pretty bad. There's some so those aren't owls though. So you're asking, are the owls good or bad?
Okay.
You could make a pretty strong case that the aliens are like low on the sensitivity scale. Yeah. So
Is machine rape less traumatizing?
people are pretty traumatized. I've talked to a
Really?
lot of people who've
It's
who
still
are-
something happening to your body you don't want.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just thinking like a fleshlight attached to like a
Well,
erector set or something.
I know that we're going way sort of off the topic. I just want to talk about cutting my handle off my toothbrush now. But I've talked to women who tell the story. It's been consistent. They cry. It's very consistent. They cry, and I'm not saying this that women will talk about a missing pregnancy. They were pregnant. They were not sexually active.
Oh.
They missed their period 1, 2, or 3 months, usually in the third trimester. Usually somewhere in the first trimester. They wake up one morning, and the fetus is gone. They wake up knowing they're not pregnant.
But they were pregnant?
They were pregnant. Oftentimes, I have had, women who have gone to the gynecologist, had the test. The doctor says, "Yep, you're pregnant."
But they weren't sexually active?
They were not sexually active, and that's like.
Jesus, Mary
Jesus,
overlaps?
yeah. So so you could actually, so Mary was visited by a glowing angel at night, Gabriel.
So do you think Gabriel's an alien?
You could make, now we're just, before I can finish one story, you're like dragging me into
Welcome to the podcast.
So you could, many researchers had gone down the speculative avenue of saying, are the ancient stories of angels actually stories of what we would now call aliens? And you could make a pretty good case for this. Not 100%. And then there's other people I know who, there's one fellow, I don't want to use his name here on this. He's a really sweet, genuine, kind guy. But he gets a lot of videotapes of orbs in his yard. He's had a lot of powerful experience. That guy is a healer. That guy is psychic, and that guy has had more owl experiences than anyone I know. And I'm one of the people who's had the most, so I'm like, I got my bar is set pretty high and he says, these are angels. I can go out into my yard and say, appear for me, and I can get videotape of these orbs floating through the trees. I've been in his yard. I've seen the orbs floating through the trees. And he says, if this was an alien from another planet on a metal spaceship, why would it happen instantly? His logic is, which I have no reason to doubt it. I follow his logic completely. And he says, in a way he doesn't know concretely, but this is how he frames it for himself. These are angels, because this is not how an alien would act.
Well, couldn't aliens winnow from place to place? Couldn't they just zzz, and then be somewhere else? Maybe
they sure could. Yeah. So that's the thing where people, that is anyway. So yes, they sure could. The problem is you're dealing with a subject that's so rich with wild stories. That's one of the toughest things about doing this research is someone calls you up and says, oh, here's my story. And you're like, whoa, I feel like I made a pretty strong stuff, and that one's stretching me.
Yeah.
And then a couple days later or sometime later, you get another one, or you talk to another researcher and you bring this up and they say, oh yeah, I've got that too. So then you see the pattern, so there's, yes, so you have to be very open-minded. At the same time, you have to moor yourself and be grounded somehow.
So the stories about people getting probed, is that not like Blink-182 metal antenna in your bum? Is that different from the probing stories you're getting?
I've only know of two people there might be more. And as I said, if someone had that experience, they would be probably correct in never sharing that publicly.
There.
So
yeah. Okay, so aliens. So I want to go through some of the common stereotypes of what they are and get your take as to whether you
agree or disagree.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Are creatures from another universe? Or
sure, you could make an argument for that.
Okay.
Are you going to rapid fire these?
You can rapid fire. I can rapid fire answers.
No, rapid fire them, and then if he agrees, we drink. If he doesn't agree, we don't drink.
Okay.
Okay.
You gotta be right there.
It's gotta be.
So I can answer any way I want.
Honest,
that I can
be
be okay. So I could make you.
Don't be a bad friend.
Humans from the future.
Sure. Yeah. Michael Masters from Montana. That's a state where there's a lot of hiking.
Well, so I guess the question I'm asking is what you believe. I believe that obviously any of these are possible.
I'm I can believe something on Tuesday, and then I'm going to hear another story, and then Wednesday I believe something. Right now, as of right now,
April 7th. That's when this is coming out. Your
March
belief,
7th.
This is coming out.
Okay, April 7th.
We're time traveling like aliens do.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
April 7th. Humans from the future.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah. I mean, sure. Yeah. Sometimes people will report 100% normal human-looking people, often strikingly beautiful and handsome, tall and muscular, wearing superhero outfits.
How are we getting into the fairies I recognize?
Yeah. So.
Evil.
Are they evil? What's the question?
Are they, I guess, good or evil?
You could cherry pick the data, right? So giant pool of data. You could cherry pick, here's this story. And you could make a pretty good case that that I was calling the owls. The aliens are evil. Yeah.
Okay.
So
you skew in that direction.
I don't skew in that direction, but you could, if someone made a case that they were evil, they could do it using all the available data. Sure.
Which direction do you lean?
So evil's on one side, good is on the other, malevolent, benevolent, right? So there's this fuzzy line somewhere in the middle there where the best word I can come up is hopeful. There's something because there's some scary stories, there's some dark stories, there's some frightening stories, there's people who've been traumatized. Like I don't want to sugarcoat it and just talk about love and light and with our space brothers from the Pleiades coming here to save humanity. And at the same time, if I cherry pick the data, I could make a pretty strong case for the space brothers from the Pleiades coming here with their shiny suits on and their perfect big muscular bodies and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I want to double click on hopeful. What do you mean by they're hopeful and they're making decisions based on some sense of optimism?
I'm not a normal researcher. I'm looking at owls and UFOs. So the story I just told about Laura, who had the owl touch her head and then gave her kidney to this stranger that she met at the Little League game, that is a hopeful story. Mm-hmm. That is what is arriving in my data pool. My data pool is totally skewed. I know it. I'm not objective. I am totally subjective. I am myopic, right? So I got the blinders on. I'm ignoring all this other stuff. I'm only focusing on owls and UFOs. So I'm not the best person to give you a generalized answer.
You're the best person I know.
Yeah, you're literally the best person I know.
So keep going.
I guess so. Hopeful from the interpretation of the person that is impacted by these encounters. Do you ever think about the motives of the owls, aliens themselves?
Sure.
So what is driving them? I guess is
what was driving the myth makers? What was driving the archetypal energy that welled up throughout humanity that created the ancient myths? You could get the philosophy students late night with the bong out, and you'd never get to the bottom of that one. But it's yeah. So what was your question? I got all sidetracked here.
Because it sounds like you've put thought into it. Oh. What is the motive of these paranormal extraterrestrial beings for their encounters with people?
Okay, so you're talking to a guy who's doing the owl research. One way to say it, I'm being a little bit provocative because I'm kind of exaggerating a little bit to make a point, but the people who are having these owl and UFO experiences, my data pool, are becoming healers, they're becoming psychics, they're working in their community to help people. So I would say that the purpose is to take people out of their normal mode, right? They're no longer working for the ad agency. They start doing Reiki healing. They start doing energy healing. They start, this is a really funny thing. So a lot of my friends have UFO contact experiences, and I'm on Facebook. They work at the dog shelters. They work at the rescue shelters. So, there's a person, what happened before your event, what changed after. People change, and then they start doing this altruistic work, like working at the animal shelter. And, obviously people are still asking a fee to do their Reiki sessions, but you got to eat. But that's what I'm finding. So your question is, what's their motivation? A flippant answer, but I could make a good case, is that so essentially, let's say the aliens are flying around in their metal spaceship. They're looking through their little viewfinder at us, vindictive, mean-spirited humans, and they're basically saying, well, they need more Reiki healers down there. They need some people to do some psychic energy work on each other, and so they zap the population, a small number, and then they've planted these little seeds. That's
interesting. That's fun.
And I'm not the only one saying that. I'm sure that there's other people, who would say that.
Who?
Those ladies in Sedona.
I thought that was the joke. I thought the joke was that I said who.
Okay.
How, if they're
Do you want more coffee?
And a little bit. Let me, sure.
Okay.
If they're just flying over and zip-zapping some Reiki into people, is it the same ones flying over on the next flyover, or is it different ones that are just on their daily commute looking down and they're like, hey, that's a cool orb planet?
So what's very common is someone has a experience when they're a little kid, the being looks through them through the bars of their crib, and then they have throughout their life they have some odd experiences, maybe some synchronicities. Then as maybe even an old man, they see a alien in the yard, and they're like, that's the same being I saw as a little kid. And they know it. They know it, like they concretely say, they don't say, it seems like the same person. They say, that is the same being. So the anecdotal evidence would say that if you're being visited by these beings, it's probably the exact same ones that come in and abduct you over and over again, or have a contact experience. There's a little bit of I'm looking at the camera here, so there's a little bit of the term abduction, right? So if you abduct someone against their will, right, you could go to jail. And so the people use the word experience or contact, so the word abduction has got a little emotion attached to it. I have no problem using it. It's partially habit, but...
Do you think with like people seeing the same alien at different times that perhaps aliens will choose humans the way that we choose pets, and then they'll like take a liking to us, like in the way that I would give Harper both of my kidneys? Like, why else would the same alien visit the same person at the start of their life and the end of their life if they didn't have like a personal fondness towards them?
Yeah, isn't that interesting? So the reason I would argue that the reason would be that somehow what they are doing is important, and that's why they are doing. So let's say, so like you say, okay, like this little being visits the person throughout the life. So you could make the argument that it is important that I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what the end game is. I don't know what their motivation is. I don't know what their big long-term plan is. But I would argue that it's important because so many people have the same consistent stories. I did write a book on. Did I tell you I wrote a book on ultralight backpacking and all?
We'll get to that. Wait, I have more questions. I have one more.
Yeah.
My one more is.
Let's do it, and we will finish your question.
Yeah, I'll have my question.
We'll do a owl UFO sandwich.
Yeah.
We'll come back to it at the end. But
well, with mega stuff in between it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. With some ultralight material in between. My last question is, like, how does one become owl ready? Like, how do you set yourself up to get the owls to give you that experience? Like, if I want to see an owl, how do I get an owl to come find me in that alien way? And not in the proby way, not in that stuff.
Well, yeah. So people can have mystical owl experiences. I got lots of stories where there's no UFO at all. They're powerful, wonderful stories.
No. I want the full. Not me personally, but like if someone were to want the full experience, the full UFO, owl, alien.
So there's lots of protocols online. You could look up it's called a CE5, because a Close Encounter of the Third Kind, CE3. Close Encounter, that's the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, is where you make contact with the being. That's what the Close Encounter of the First Kind is. You see one off in the distance.
Oh.
Close Encounter of the Second Kind is where you see the craft land, and then Close Encounter of the Third Kind is when you actually have contact with the beings. And then you get to fourth kind is where you actually have an interaction with the beings. Like you build a relationship. That's CE4. I think I've got this right. This is a little...
No one will know.
My friends will know.
Well, no one's this will know.
And then CE5 is when you initiate contact. You could just go online and look up CE5 protocols. I'll tell you what they'll be probably. You go, you meditate, you clear your mind, you have good positive intentions, you light a candle, you sit in the woods, maybe do this every night for a week.
Oh,
if you did that, you could go with a group. You could have people do it, all meditate together. I've been with people who've seen stuff. I've been with people. I've looked away, and then everyone goes, and then something flashed in the sky.
Whoa.
So you could. I'm not saying. I feel like intention is very powerful, and if you worked from a state of strong intention, you could probably get results. Might not be immediate.
How come they don't come to you all the time then?
What do I need them to come from me? What are they
they
going to
probably see you're doing all this research and they're like, wow, this guy knows a lot about our operation.
What am I like? That's just kind of like if you read a detective novel, and like the detective finds the bullet in the bushes.
Yeah, the bad guys probably want to know who the detective is.
And then he doesn't have to go back to the bushes again and find the same bullet, right? So what do I need? I mean, I'm like.
No, I'm not saying that you want to find them. I'm saying why don't they want to find you? Do you think that they know about your research?
Oh, I mean, do I think? Okay, so you're asking, do I know or do I think?
Okay, well, if you know, then that trumps think. So
okay.
Do you know that they know about your research?
I think they do.
Okay. So why, if they know, hey, there's this guy that knows all this shit about us, why would they not want to come
So you got an entire
encounter you?
cocktail there. So that's coffee extract. So it's 1 ratio water to.
Oh, I'm going to
coffee.
just go. Okay, I'll just.
I mean, do whatever you want.
Okay,
Just-
I see what you're saying. Gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha.
I
So
just-
I was wondering if you said it's a cocktail. And I was like, oh God, is that gin?
No. Yeah,
So-
we're not trying to make any poop stories on the podcast
Okay,
here.
great.
Yeah.
So that's what. Okay, there we go.
It's a good question.
Yeah. Why don't they want to find you?
How much time do we have left?
Yeah, we're good.
How much time do we have left? Really? 'Cause
We're-
We are here.
there's no
this is
finite
Friday
amount
night,
of time,
baby. We're
yeah.
celebrating 300.
So in my first book, throughout the first book, where I was sort of my own personal story about, at one point I should tell a story that involves ultralight camping, and it is how I got into the whole owl thing. It's 100%. It is an ultralight backpacking story.
We can do that in the ultralight portion of the
Okay.
sandwich.
So in my first book, I said something to the effect of, if I had that book, I wish I did have it, or I could just read the final line of the book is something that I'm going to paraphrase this from my mind. You know what? In my book, I'm writing a lot about myself, and I sleep under the stars a lot. You probably cowboy camp whenever you can, and you know just what it means to sleep out under the stars. You go to Arizona, you sleep out under the stars. It's really a spiritual experience. I mean, for me, like sleeping out under the stars shows up a lot in my writing. It's in the novel. It's all over the place in the novel. And I had to name, when you self-publish a book, you get to pick your own publisher name, and my name is Beneath the Stars. So that's implying that you're sleeping under the stars. So I speculate cautiously, and I say, I don't know the source of my obsession, but it feels like I have been compelled by an outside source. Like sleeping under the stars on a desert night, this book has been an act of abandonment. So what I'm saying is to write those books like I had to let go. Like if I had trusted my intellect, my rational side, if I had trusted that, I would not have done these books, right? Because owls and UFOs, that's absurd, right? So
Here's a question based on what you just said. Do you think that you've been touched by a UFO owl like early enough that you might not remember it, and that has caused you to feel compelled to do all this stuff? Because you said you don't know where it comes from.
how much time do we have? So the answer would be yes. Like, so the people I say, oh, there's experiencer, that's a term you would use, the abductee. So like if you, like right on the back page of my books, you know, I say that I've had the direct contact experience.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm one of them. And what I can say, it is not like the documentaries, the sort of exploitative documentaries. It is much more subtle. It is much more dreamlike and much more elusive than what we'd call the pop culture version.
Writing down my questions for the other half of the sandwich.
I'm going to end with this one. Do you consider yourself a healer?
People multiple times a week, someone says, Mike, I've had this experience. Am I alone? And I can reply, no, you are not alone. You are, so I am providing solace in that way. And you can read some of the, like you can read the reviews on, like in Amazon. It's right there, you know, like for the owl books, not just the fiction book. And people will say, like, oh, I resonated so strongly with this. It explained so much about my own life. So my obsessive writing has, like, I feel the books are not selling well. They're selling pretty well. Like, I can eat. But what is more important to me is that people are reaching out to me, thanking me for basically saying what they cannot say. They say, okay, your story is so similar to mine, I can't tell my wife about this. I can't tell my boss about this, but I'm going to tell you. Here's what happened to me. And so I've met a lot of people with very similar stories to my own. It's very subtle. It's very dreamlike. And it took a lot of work to work through that and try to express what may or may not have happened in my life.
Yeah.
I don't know why in the first me thinking back to the first episode, I thought you didn't have any encounters.
You never asked.
Fair.
I would have if you had asked. I've got
this
no
time.
problem talking about
Second
this stuff.
time's a charm.
We suck at interviewing.
We
That seems like a pretty
terrible.
obvious question.
We were talking.
Right? How did we get to that the first
We
time?
did talk about cutting the handle off the toothbrush and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Maybe that ate up too
Yeah.
much time. Maybe this time we do less.
So are you still cutting handles off toothbrushes?
Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah.
So you know what I've done? This is actually sort of like, I used to, you'd kind of like, you got to go in the woods and like, where's like an old toothbrush? I'm just going to cut the handle off. You know what I do now? I take a brand new toothbrush. So when you got a really good, the difference that it feels in your mouth when you got a nice toothbrush versus a kind of an old one. So
Yeah.
What's your favorite brand of toothbrush to cut the handle off of?
you know what, the ones with the ones with some of them have like big, ergonomic grips for those are tough to cut. Like you can go with one with a little thinner handle. So
Do you ever brush your teeth with half a toothbrush at home just for nostalgia's sake?
no, I mean I don't know if I reviewed my entire life. Who knows what would come up? But
Yeah.
I can say no. I have a great big regular toothbrush.
Yeah. Okay. Let's pretend like somebody didn't listen to the first episode. It's been long enough. We probably have erased most of it anyways. Give us the primer and what got you into backpacking, and especially like what inspired you to write this book, because you're considered one of the ultralight OGs. Like, this is
Old Guard? Oh God, I forgot.
No. Original Goat?
gangster.
Original
Maybe
Gangster.
there's different interpretations, but yeah.
Old Guard.
Oh, yeah. I was
Old Guard
combining
is,
two. No, Goat is greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
OG is original.
So I did illustrations for Climbing Magazine for 12 years, a dozen years, and they had these tech tips, and they were just exactly the same kind of thing, these comic booky kind of things on how to tie knots and how to like do little finger locks and Yosemite granite and such like that. So I was very well known in the climbing community. I was never that good of a climber. So like all these like A+ hot climbers like knew me, so I could like pal around. Like I could meet someone at the coffee shop in Moab or in Yosemite and say, hey, like I have the illustration for your thing. And so I automatically had a good buddy. I was not in the same league with so I would say the same thing is true to a certain degree as far as the ultralight thing, where there's probably some people out there that have more miles than me on the long trails and stuff like that. But I feel like but I have illustration skills that I can be funny and draw cartoons.
Yeah. But what year was this published?
So about 2010 or 11.
Okay.
It should be. I think it's just 2010.
So this is perfect because my first through hike was 2011, and
Did you have that book?
did not have the book at the time.
Was your pack too heavy?
Pack was very heavy. Not only was my pack heavy, everyone's pack was heavy. And I know that the UL movement was out there because there were like a few stray people that had what looked like day packs at the time. Doing
Ray
UL.
Jardine's book had come out. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know his is like the actual origin of all of this. Like he's the one that popularized this. But you were definitely early on in that wave. But the timing of this is interesting because, like I said, when I through hiked the AT 2011 drink, no one was ultralight backpacking, and then jumped to like 2013 to some 15. It was definitely way more prominent. I was on the Colorado Trail. I was getting lighter. My pack was getting lighter. And just the packs that you'd see out there were a different breed of pack compared to what you saw in 2011. So, I mean, your book definitely very likely played a huge impact into that. So I guess what was the inspiration to get into writing this book?
Okay, I listened to the show a few days ago, so I'm going to retell the same story. I worked for the National Outdoor Leadership School, NOLS. They are famous for a few things. They do 30-day trips. They don't take toilet paper, and they take really big packs. So I was working in the mountains of Alaska with like doing mountaineering trips with wet ropes, and good God, the packs were enormous. Like winter camping with wet ropes. It was crampons and helmets and ice axes and climbing gear. It was brutal. So I was getting older and older and older. My patience for the big pack was getting less and less and less. So I then remember I said people would reach out to me and say, hey, Mike, can you do a book with 100 illustrations? And I'm like, oh, God, or 200 illustrations? I'm like, So the test I would give people is they would call me and say, Mike, can you do a book with 200 illustrations? Or they would say, can you illustrate my book? And I say, how many illustrations do you have? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to say yes? Like, how am I supposed to give you a budget and a time and like a deadline? And if you don't know, just can you make a list of the illustrations you need? And they go, no. I'm like, okay, well, don't bother calling me back. Kind of like, what kind of business is that? So they want to hire me, but they don't tell me what. So anyway, it was a source of frustration. This guy, Don Ladigan, put out a book called Lighten Up. It's a wonderful book. It would be if I'm looking at the book on the table there. Ultralight Backpacking Tips. If it was side by side with Don Ladigan's book, they make a beautiful, you read one first and then you read that Ultralight Backpacking Tips second. His is a little shorter than mine. So he contacted me in 2005, I think, and he said, would you illustrate my book? And I said, can you give me a list of illustrations? And he said, sure. And then a few days later, this is before the advent of like an attachment on an email. So I get a big envelope from FedEx. I open it up and there's a 3-ring binder, and you opened it up and the first illustration was like the shoes. And he described the shoes, and then he had a picture cut out of the REI catalog of like a pair of lightweight trail hikers.
Sounds like a dream client.
And it was great. So I called him back up and I said, absolutely, I'll do your book. So as I'm drawing this stuff, this is right at the chapter of my life when I was like, I can't put on the big pack again. I can't go to Alaska and carry that awful big, huge pack again. And so I live right next to the Tetons at the time. I was living right in Driggs, Idaho, which is right next to the Tetons. Jackson Hole is on the other side of the Tetons. I would sit at the desk and draw these things. I had Pro Deal because I was a professional outdoor educator, so I could order little things, and I could call up people and say, hey, I'm wow, with this little alcohol stove, how does this work? And so by the end of the project, I had gotten a lightweight pack. I had gotten a lightweight sleeping bag and a lightweight pad, and I got a tarp, and I got some of the stuff I made myself, like the little cat food can stove and such. And I went on a 1-day hike, I went on one overnight. I put everything in the breeze. I think it was called the Gust. That was the Gust. It was a really early on pack, the original Ray Jardine pack that Coop did with Ray Jardine. And I put it on and got about 5 steps down the trail. I was wearing running shoes, and I was like, I'm never going back. I'm never going back. I'm never going to put the big pack on again.
Do you recall what year it was that the first time you experienced UL?
2005.
2005.
The spring of 2005. I was working through the winter of 2005, 2004, 2005. I think. I was working through the winter of 2004, 25. So I couldn't go camping yet because I would have been winter camping. When the springtime came, there were some trails that melted out early. I hiked these, and they were muddy and stuff like that. And I did a lot of off-trail hiking in the Tetons with just sneakers. So I was sold. And you may not know this about me, but I can really be obsessive about some things.
No.
So I got super obsessive about the lightweight thing, and I started the lightweight program at Knowles. There was a team that started it, but I could safely say that I spearheaded the push to go lighter weight at Knowles. So they did run for a while lightweight backpacking courses, and I taught a handful of those.
Do you have any personal relationship with Ray Jardine?
No, none at all. I would love to meet him.
Yeah.
Has he ever sat in this chair?
He hasn't. That would be a dream guest for us.
Okay.
But yeah, no, not yet. So 2005 is your first experience with ultralight backpacking. I guess walk us through future trips from there on out. Like you did a 1-night overnight at that point, but what were some of the longer trips that you were doing testing the UL system?
So I was doing 6 to 8. Most of it was like testing for the school. Like the school didn't actually pay me much, but they gave me and there's a buddy of mine, Phil Schneider. And he and I were doing a lot of testing initially. And we went to the Escalante and did a long trip there, 5 days or 6 days or something. And then we'd do stuff in the Tetons a lot, right in the backyard. So what I was doing, which was I would go do a lot of 1 or 2 night trips, and I would really tweak the gear. Okay, let's see what I can leave behind. So I did the sub 5 pound kind of Glenn Van Pesky kind of thing. So, and then, so anyway, so a lot of the testing I did was on overnights. And probably my longest trip is without a resupply, or between resupplies, is 12 nights or so, 13 nights.
It's been 20 years since you got into ultralight backpacking.
Oh, that's right. It's 2000.
Happy
Yeah.
20 years. Looking back over the past 20 years, what would you say are your strongest convictions about what you've learned about ultralight backpacking? Not just like lighter is better, like vague things, but super specific things, like to cut weight here you should do this, or this is better than that. Like, what are some specific things that over the 20 years you've been like, these beliefs have held strongest for me, or these are the things I feel most firmly about?
So I'll talk about 2 things. One, just use a spreadsheet, and then write everything down. Get a scale, write everything down. Be very formal about it. If you do that, your weight will plummet. If you do the thing that most campers do, is they have like some big tubs in the garage with their camping gear, and they just kind of stuff it all in the pack and go camping. You're gonna suffer from that. So just be very formal. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You know, if you can go with traditional camping gear, as long as you are very prudent and don't take extras, you can do pretty well. So that would be one. Just be very formal with a spreadsheet and a scale. And then the other would be that the lighter the pack, the more you will be able to tap into and appreciate the wilderness experience. The lighter the pack, the less on your back, you can better appreciate the wilderness. And I'm saying that because I've done both. I've gone out with a big pack and a heavy pack. You can appreciate the wilderness, but you gotta have a layover day by the pretty lake.
Do you think there's a point of diminishing returns? Like, let's say you get your pack down to 9 pounds. Are you going to enjoy the experience significantly more if you go from 9 to 6?
Well, so there's all kinds of, so you could go to 0 and you could walk into the woods naked. There was a bunch of,
That's what your friend Coop did.
Yeah.
Coop has done that, and Ryan Jordan has done that and stuff. So it's like, yeah, like I never had to, like, I know enough, like,
Chaunce had a
I
dirty
like,
joke.
what was that?
That's not true.
Oh.
Coop did do that.
No, I know. I thought you were laughing, but never mind.
I was
Okay.
laughing because you were laughing.
Okay,
It's funny.
it is funny that
It is
people
funny.
would do that,
Yeah.
and so as a test, I realized I could do that. It would involve suffering. It would involve being cold. It would involve being itchy, and so like I don't want to do that. So the 0 is too light, right? So base weight of let's say pack weight of 15 pounds. That's with food and water and your base weight. Your base weight and consumables. 15 pounds for one night, 14 pounds, 12 pounds for one night. Easy. And then once you start subtracting and getting that down, Glenn Van Pesky goes out with 5 pounds. He's like achieved sort of Zen mastery at what he does, and he's like totally at peace with it, and he's actually capable. I can't do this anymore. I used to I've done the thing where you just take a 3/4 length or a half length foam pad, and that's all you take to sleep on. I much prefer the inflatable pad. And then, but as you add weight to that, let's say that 15 pound, what's it say on the cover there? It's got a 10-day ration period.
Under 25 pounds.
I've done that. I hiked 10 days in the winds under 25 pounds. It was
Yeah.
easy. It was great.
Yeah.
And we had bear spray. Did we have bear spray? No, we didn't have bear spray. We had ice axes. And so,
Is that supposed to protect you against grizzlies?
well, there's no real bear issues in the winds that you have to worry
I carried
about.
bear spray when I went through, but
Yeah,
I didn't see any grizzlies.
I
Yeah.
slept with my
I've done stuff.
flight meds the nights that I slept in the Tetons.
Which are ultralight.
Oh,
so
that's
good
right.
on you.
Because you did the Teton Crest. I've done the
Yeah.
Teton Crest like 10 times. And
Yeah,
I've
but
done
I
it in the
took-
winter twice. I've taught it for knolls in the winter. I've done it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was my first. Well, it wasn't my first time because the Cascades have grizzlies, but I was on my. I take panic meds for flying, and I took
Oh.
those every night on that.
Oh, I've
trail.
done. So the grizzlies, it's not. I've seen grizzlies in the Tetons.
Yeah,
The Yellowstone and
the
Grand
winds
Teton.
are really close, aren't they?
Pardon?
Aren't the winds close?
There's fewer, very rarely reported grizzly bears in the winds.
You can tell
And-
I haven't done the Continental Divide Trail.
But I maybe we did have bear spray. Now I'm drawing a blank on it. Maybe we did. So, as far as but the likelihood of seeing a grizzly in the Tetons is not zero. So yeah, I would. And then there's a lot of black bears in the Tetons. So and
my brain just puts them next to each other because I haven't done.
I've spent a lot of time in Alaska and in the Yellowstone and in Canada and stuff like that. So I've seen a lot of bears. So I've, you know what I don't advocate is earplugs at night. People are like, I'm going to sleep with my earplugs in. You don't want to sleep with your earplugs in grizzly bear country. Like and I have like a whole thing where the bear spray is always like my shoe is right here, and then the bear spray is up right in the shoe right next to my left shoulder.
Yeah, I slept with it, like I cuddled it.
Like a little teddy bear.
But I also did earplugs because I'm like, if I'm going to get mauled to death by a grizzly bear, I'd rather know when it's halfway done.
Yeah, ignorance is bliss.
You know, like tell me when you're like, you've eaten my feet and my legs and my body and you're up to my neck. Then you can wake me up.
Okay. The likelihood of that is extremely low. People camp in Yellowstone all the time. There's hardly any. It's not zero.
Yeah.
But it's zero year to year, and then you put the 20-year average would be like, maybe one event every 20 years in Yellowstone. And then let me tell you,
there's a chance.
Yeah,
it's not zero. It's not zero.
I feel like I completely derailed whatever it was you asked. I don't even know what you asked.
There's no rails on this podcast. We
Perfect.
are sans rails.
Well, I have a place to go from that then that makes sense, which is what if finding ways to lower the weight isn't the issue? Like what if I'm super good at spreadsheets, I love numbers, I love tracking all this stuff. What if you get a personality like that who's trying to go from being a regular weight backpacker to a lightweight backpacker or an ultralight backpacker, but the problem isn't like the analytics or the finding the way to make it work. The problem is more fear, right? Because people pack their fears.
Sure.
So what if they have a fear of getting cold, so they're packing more clothes, or a fear of going thirsty, so they pack more water, or, a fear of whatever causes people to go with a warmer sleeping bag, or all of that.
So I worked at the National Outdoor Leadership School, and I ran the lightweight program, or there was other people running it too, but I was definitely the loudest mouth, let's say. And so you would take people who've never gone camping before, and their first camping experience is lightweight. You do the spreadsheet. Your first day, you meet them. Hi, my name's Mike. I'm your instructor. And then you have the little spreadsheet. We did it with a clipboard, and just write the weight of everything down. We had little scales, and they did it, and it worked great. People went out with incredibly light packs, and they had no problem at all. They were like, we were like, you're going to be fine, and they were fine. We did great. We got snowed on. We got rained on. We had crummy weather. We had so we were dealing with exactly the issues that you should be scared of. Not scared, but you should address appropriately before going on a trip. So, and then you get seasoned campers. There's a cross-section of seasoned campers that are called, I gotta be careful, at least they're called NOLS instructors. I would say, I'm going to be really careful here. I haven't worked for the school for I haven't worked for the school for over 10 years. No one's going to hear this. They're like,
here.
So,
you're amongst friends.
So, without a doubt, the most obstinate, the thickest brick wall of going light are the most experienced campers. And the most experienced campers that worked for NOLS are the most obstinate to try to lighten their pack.
Why?
Because it's just the way it's always been done.
Sort of like the Boy Scout mentality. It's like, this is the way we do things.
This is the way
We're
we
not
do
going to
things.
change.
Grandpa did it this way.
Right.
I'm going to do it this way. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So it's got it. I should be careful what I say, but I stand by that statement.
Yeah.
We're not very careful about what we say.
No.
It's okay.
Okay.
I think we have to add an alien rape disclaimer on this episode, so we're definitely
okay. Yeah. So trauma. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
So, I have a. Can I tell a lightweight backpacking story that involves the. Remember what I said? What was going on in your life before the event, and what was going on in your life after?
Yes, you can tell the story, but first Zach has to spin the wheel.
Ooh, all right.
I feel like it's hard to get the wheel spins in when every story is so interesting.
A non-Oreo.
What are you doing?
You got a shot.
Good for you.
Oh,
Do you
my
want me
gosh.
to grab it?
No, I want you to spin the wheel.
Oh, no. Okay. Please be kind.
That's a big shot glass.
Yeah, we had shot glass. I don't know what
Shot.
Oh,
we're both doing shots.
Okay. It was a sort of a long drive, and I'm driving someone else's car. So
See you.
so
You're up.
Oreos are Oreos only for me.
You know what, Chaunce? We haven't opened this one yet.
Oh,
What's
let's
a
do
better
it.
occasion than our 300?
Show the camera. If you I don't remember do you remember who got it for us at this
I don't
point?
remember,
It's been
but
years.
Thank you to whoever did.
If you were the person that got us the bottle of Maker's Mark for Christmas one year that says Backpacker Radio on the label,
Personalized, yeah.
watch our YouTube video for this episode. We are finally opening it.
Oh, it's just opening 300 episode, number
Yeah,
300.
This is like
Yeah.
uncorking a very nice wine.
Here I am.
Skirkus
change it.
car is becoming less and less meaningful, huh?
Okay, I got a ultralight backpacking story for you coming up. So
Wow, this is really exciting. It's always been too pretty to look at. Or to touch, I guess.
I don't know when these been rinsed out, but the alcohol will kill it.
Yeah.
1, 2, oh,
I think maybe like one day
Okay.
it would be nice to take the cups home and wash them.
nah. These are your cups.
there's a
Maybe I'll just bring in more cups and we'll burn those.
I'll let you pick. They're
I'll do the one that's more pink.
more pink.
Yeah, the cups started pink, but that one looks a little
Okay,
tan.
I'm colorblind.
All right. Well,
Cheers.
Salud.
happy 300.
Yeah.
Yes, congratulations,
Thank you
folks.
for joining us.
I know what it means to do a podcast. 300 is a huge deal.
You know what? Can't do whiskey without some ginger.
You gotta take a shot.
Yeah, I'm going to. I'm just
Okay.
going to sip the ginger first.
Okay. I'll let it slide. So we were gonna get your story, and then we interrupted it with.
Oh no, that's totally fine.
It's your ultralight backpacking story.
And we interrupted the owl stuff with UFO stuff. We interrupted the backpacking stuff with so it's like it's jumping around.
The circle
So
goes around.
how I got into the UFO and owl thing. This was in 2006. I was living in Driggs. There's a branch for the school, Knowles, in Driggs. There was a woman working there named Kristen. And so I had been working up in Alaska all summer long. I was back down in the lower 48. I wanted to, this is right. And this is right when I was insane for the going out in the mountains with a light pack. So the branch is like this total hangout scene. Everyone's it's like a little clubby, it's an amazing culture. That's actually something I miss dearly, is the culture of Knowles. So hanging out at the branch, there's this young woman there, and her name is Kristen. And she's been there all summer. And says, hey, you've been here all summer, right here in the Tetons in the backyard. Now it's the end of September, almost October. You must have camped all summer long. And she goes, I didn't camp once. And I said, well, that's terrible. I'll take you camping. We can go out for one night. I'll take light packs. We can hike into. I know the Tetons. I don't even take a map. So let's go in for one night. Now this was sort of a first date, and I've told this to people, and they're like, "You took someone camping on a first date?" And I was
Is this
like,
gonna be love? I love love.
Let's one story at a time here. So I love too. So we take a pack. We say, okay, take this, leave this behind. We're just going for one night, and I knew the weather patterns. I'd been living there for over a decade, and so you could look out to the southeast and just know. The southwest, and just know the incoming weather. And there was not a cloud in the sky, the perfect autumn day. And we're not taking a tent. So we went out and left in the afternoon. The trails, you've been to the Tetons, you can get way deep into the mountains in just a couple hours.
Yeah.
So light packs, sneakers, we get way, way deep into the mountains and the sun starts setting. And I'm sitting on a big flat rock. I'd been in Alaska all summer. I've been wanting to lightweight camp. And I'm sitting on a rock with a little alcohol stove, and I'm making dinner. Just completely in my element. And Kristen tells me something. Now to I'm going to come back to this, but she says something, and I'm like, wow, this woman is smarter than I thought. This woman is more sensitive than I thought. She's more mystical than I thought. I did not expect this. This was a complete stranger. And at that point, an owl flew over us.
No. Was this your encounter?
And then a second owl, and then a third owl.
What?
And then for the next couple of hours, as the sun set, these owls flew around us. They landed on the branches. And so we finished eating. The owls fly over us. They're flying around. They're on the branch over there, and they're on the branch over there. And it's bear country. So we packed up everything. Lightweight backpack. Takes just a minute. Stuff it in the pack. Let's walk first. We walked a little while, and the owls followed us. And we found a nice spot to sleep. So we were, we weren't camping where we were cooking, so we'd moved. And then we found this really nice spot. We laid our sleeping pads on the ground. We're looking up at the beautiful stars. This is the Northern Rockies. Unless you're from Canada. I've had Canadians that those are not the Northern Rockies.
Fair.
But so it's more northern than your Rockies here.
Yeah, it's the middle northern.
Yeah. So we're like no light pollution, trillion billion stars. So we're laying down and then the stars would be blotted out for just half a second when these owls were flying right in front of our faces. They never touched our heads.
And this is before your encounter, or this is your encounter?
I'll tell the story. I've gotten really good at telling this. I can tell the story really well. I've told this story many times.
If you need me to ask.
No, you can see. No, please. So it was beautiful. It was really powerful. And this is a story that involves sleeping out under the stars. So I talked about that a little bit ago. So we walk back to town and I say, hey, that was great. If you ever want to go camping again, just give me a call. So 4 days later, we go camping again. We go to a different part of the Tetons. This time it's a little colder, so we have a tarp. Just not a tent. It's not a true tent. We have a tarp.
What a tarp is.
Okay. Sorry.
No, I'm kidding. I'm just messing because you were looking at me when you were saying it. I'm like, come on.
Okay, so we had a tarp. It would have been a Go Light tarp, yeah. So, and then the sun was setting. It was a little cold. We had set the tarp up, and the sun was setting. There was kind of this hilltop. We were above the tree line. And I said, let's hike to the top of that hill, because if we walk up to the top of that hill, there's no trees really. We're little stubby trees, little subalpine firs. And then we can watch the sunset, and then we can be warmed up so we don't have to climb in our sleeping bags cold. Which is great. So we walk up to the top of this hill. We get to the top of the hill. Just as the sun is setting, we get to the top of the hill, and then 3 owls fly around us. So same person. 3 days later, 3 owls. I'm convinced they're the same 3 owls. We were miles away from where we were before. You
know who also says that is the people that see the aliens multiple times. They think that it's the same one sometimes, and they're not just thinking it; they're sure of it.
Okay, I feel pretty sure that these were the same 3 owls.
That's a trend.
Okay. There's a career for you if you want to do UFO research.
I also like to obsess on things.
So what I talked about, I did not talk about this at the time, but I'm talking about it now, and I sort of can't shut up about it now. When I saw those 3 owls, the first night and the second time, which was 4 days later, I heard a voice in my head, and I've told this story many times. I do this thing. I go, and the voice said, "This has something to do with the owls." Ooh. Excuse me. I got to redo that again. The voice said, "This has something to do with the UFOs." Oh. Now, what I just did is something I do all the time, where owl, UFO, both 3 letters. I type it backwards. I type owl when I want to type UFO.
Where did the UFOs come from?
So, in my life, I would have been 44 years old at that time. I had some experiences as a kid of seeing close-up UFOs. I had missing time event.
What was your missing time event?
So we're going to get sidetracked.
No, yeah, save it for the sandwich.
Okay. So, but I have
at the bottom like
I was 12-year-old. I was 12-year-old boy, and I was walking home from a high school football game, and I knew what time I was supposed to be home, and my parents were waiting for me at the door. I should have been home at 9:30, and it was 11:30, and we saw a bright orange light in the sky that night.
My headphones are wrapped around my chair.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Fine.
So, okay, so, and then this is going to get, so when I was 30, which would have been 14 years earlier, this one's a little more telling. I was alone in a house in Maine, rural Maine, and there was a bright light coming through the window, and I sat up in bed and looked out the window, and there were 5 gray beings walking towards the house. I was the only one in the house, and there was no other house they were walking towards.
Are you just shitting yourself?
The weird thing is I felt nothing. I felt void of all emotion. I had every emotion sucked out of me.
You're not like going to the gun cabinet?
I didn't have a gun cabinet. I was like a vegetarian hippie.
The knife block?
I did have some nice knives. I had ice axes and all kinds of stuff.
You're just there setting the table.
So I heard a voice in my head that said, "Oh yes, they're here. Now is the time to put your head on the pillow and shut down."
No.
And that's exactly what I did.
You saw 5 gray beings coming into your yard towards your house, and you went to bed?
I was already in bed. I woke up from a sound sleep.
Well, yeah, but you didn't get out of bed?
I heard a voice in my head that said, "Oh yes, they're here. Now is the time."
So you just went back to bed?
Why'd you listen to it?
So if you were to talk to someone who does UFO research, and you heard this exact story, or they told you this, if I told this to a seasoned researcher, they would go, "You and everyone else."
Were you on any alcoholic beverages or fun enhancements?
Nope.
I picture, like in Dune, when they get that crazy voice that reverberates their soul.
Yeah.
Like that's what the aliens are conveying.
It was a little. It was. I would say it's tough. Now here's the problem. It seemed like it was my voice, right?
Interesting.
So the next morning I didn't even go out to look and see if there were footprints in the snow. But I'll tell you, there have been so many weird synchronicities connected to that night, emotional stuff connected to that night, that here's what I did do. I did dismiss it as a dream. Like, no way, couldn't have been, I ain't going there, no way.
Do you think all voices that come in your head as like an external voice are related somehow to UFOs?
No. So I don't have a whole lot of stories about external voices.
I have one.
Oh.
Do you want to hear it?
Sure. Can we?
There's no UFOs or
okay,
owls
let's
involved.
do it. Let's go.
But I would love for you to tear it apart for me. So when I was in high school, I mentioned on one podcast one time that like I've been in a car accident where I wasn't driving. So I get a lot of anxiety when people are driving because I don't have control. So if they go fast, like I'm a backseat, front seat princess. But in high school, you were allowed to leave school for lunch if you were a senior. I wasn't a senior, I was a sophomore, but I had friends who were seniors. And we lived close to school, so we would go to my house during lunch, and we would just like eat some chips, go on the computer, and then go back to school. It was just fun to leave. But one day we were running late for class, and my class after lunch was French class. I'm in 10th grade. And my French teacher, like, notoriously like doesn't like have much of a tolerance for my bullshit specifically. I'm very hyperactive. And I'm like, dude, if I'm late to this class, like she's gonna call my mom again. You know, like I can't be late to this class. So we leave from my house a little late, and my friends are twins. One was in the back seat, one was driving, and I'm sitting shotgun. And I was the type of person where like I never wanted to wear a seatbelt ever. Like I would pretend to buckle it and then not, just to satisfy the person telling me to buckle it so that they thought it was buckled, but I just hated being like constricted. So I'd pretend to buckle it and I actually wouldn't.
Is it because you had strict parents?
Maybe like a therapist could probably tell me. Okay. But so this day we're running late for school, so one of the girls is driving, one of the girls in the back seat in the middle. I'm holding like a can of ginger ale or Sprite, I can't remember which. I'm in the front seat, I don't have my seatbelt on. And we're rushing back because we want to get to class on time, and we're late. And it's like a very windy set of roads that get to the school. And when we turn off my road to the other windy road, like she makes the turn fast. And like I don't think anything of it, but I get this like external voice in my head that says, buckle your seatbelt. Mm-hmm. And my brain says, that's silly. Brush it off, nothing. And then I get it like more forcefully in my head, and it says, buckle your seatbelt. It was a female voice. I don't think it was mine. It didn't sound like mine, but it was a female voice. And I was like, whoa. Like, it was weird enough to me where I was like, I should buckle my seatbelt. I usually don't, and I usually pretend to and don't. But, like, that voice that second time, like, really wasn't kidding around. So I hand my soda to the girl in the back, and I go to buckle my seatbelt, and we go around this first turn. And you know how your seatbelt locks when you turn quick? So my seatbelt locked. And then we go around this other turn, and I went to pull it again, and the seatbelt locked. And there's one more turn in this series of the road, and I yank it, and it just immediately clicks in the buckle. Like, you know, if you yank it fast, you're not going to hit it the first time, but it hit. And it clicked. And the second it clicked, my side of the car hit this giant boulder. We went through the front yard of the house that was right there, through their bushes, hit the tree, and that car was totaled. And for me, I had this flash of white, and everything went silent. And I'm like, all right, I'm dead. That sucks. Now what? And everything was just still white and quiet. And I'm like, fuck, if I'm stuck in a white, quiet room for eternity, like this is gonna suck. You know, like don't let this be it. Just make nothing. And then sound starts coming back and vision starts coming back, and I realized the white was the airbag hitting me in the face. classic Dane Cook story, like my shoes fell off getting out into the bush. And because I was under 18, because I wasn't a senior, legally I had to go to the hospital. You know, I had an entirely all the way around fat lip. I had totally scratched up cheeks from the airbag, like all this kind of stuff. There was a spiderweb crack in front of my side of the dashboard. And so the cops had to come, and the ambulance and everyone had to come because I was a minor. And the cop was trying to make me feel better. He was trying to, like, compliment me and be like, "You're a good kid." Because he was like, dude, it's so, like, we were waiting for the ambulance together, and we were sitting on the side of the road. I had a rag on my cheek to, like, you know, ice it. And he was like, "It's so good that you were wearing your seatbelt." Like, he's trying to compliment me for it. He's like, it's such a good thing you were wearing your seatbelt. He's like, "Did you see that spiderweb crack in front of your face?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, if you weren't wearing your seatbelt, your head would have gone through that, and I have no doubt in my mind you would have been pronounced dead on sight." And the friend that was driving just started fucking breaking down crying because she knew that I didn't have my seatbelt on. And she knew that I was pulling it, and it wasn't clicking. And, like, a moment before I hit that rock, I yanked it. For some reason, it didn't lock, and it instantly clicked, and I looked up, and things started to happen. So that was the only time I ever had a voice in my head. But there were no owls, and there were no UFOs.
Okay, so I hear paranormal stories all the time. And I said it earlier, I can tap into the flavor and mood of those stories. So what's your sense? So I know what I feel. So what do you feel happened?
I, like, got a reality check that I'm not invincible and that I should really wear my seatbelt
Whoa. Go the voice.
Yeah.
It just sounded like it was. I can't pick who it was. I don't know the name. Like, okay, I don't know any voice that sounds like that.
Okay, here's as an outsider, from someone, you're doing what everyone does.
What is that? What am I
You're
doing?
denying the magic.
Well, I'm trying to make sense of it.
Whoa. How's that working for you? Because all you're doing is saying, "Oh gosh, like, isn't that like?"
It's a great party story.
So I've, like, you're denying that. So this happens all the time. Someone sees an owl. Their grandfather. Everyone's in the car. They see an owl at the funeral as they're driving out. It's pouring down rain. There's an owl. Owls don't like to be out in the rain. There's an owl in the one spot where everyone in the car could see it, and they drive under the owl after they put their grandfather in the car. Everyone in the car went. And I've asked several people in the car what they think, and they all did just what you do. They say, "What are the chances that an owl could land on that branch?" And then when I really say, "What did you feel?" I really have to press them, and they kind of say, "Well, my grandfather was saying, I'm okay."
Well, like, truthfully, I feel like I would be dead at this moment if I hadn't listened to it. Because I wouldn't have buckled my seatbelt. So
the magic took place. You had a magical, mystical experience. You heard a voice in your head. So if I'm taking your story literally, the likelihood that, I don't know if I could do that. Just
right. I've never repeated it.
Okay, so a magical event took place. Wow. You're smirking like it's not you.
No, it's cool.
Well, it is. Yes. So I would argue that a lot of people have these magical stories, and a lot of people will deny them. I did it. I saw 5 beings in my backyard. No way, not going there. Didn't happen. Couldn't happen.
But how is this linked to aliens or owls?
How is it linked? It's linked in the sense that it has the same flavor and mood of so many owl stories. I've got owl. This is a very common one.
Well, what do you think about it? Tell me.
I think it's so. I think.
What do you think? Diagnose me.
I'm not. There's so here. We're. I'm like. I haven't had.
We have no time clock.
You had a powerful mystical experience. It saved your life. What on the list of things? You get a whiteboard and say, okay, let's put things like a mystical experience that might be important.
Like a phantom woman voice telling me to, fine.
And the outcome was it saved your life. The cops said it. If you didn't have what would have happened if you didn't have the seatbelt on?
My head would have gone through the spider crack, and I would have gone straight into the tree, and I'd be pronounced dead on sight.
Okay, so the high probability you would have. So a voice in your head saved your life. Here's a story I get all the time. This is very common. People driving.
When you boil it down that way, I sound like I belong in a ward.
Pardon?
I said, when you boil it down that way, I sound like I belong in a ward. A voice in my head saved my life?
But wait a minute. So you're asking me, and what I'm saying is, no, you don't belong in a ward, because the story you're telling is so consistent to so many other stories I hear. Here's one with an owl. This is like, I've got multiple of this one. Someone's driving down the road at night. This owl either steps into the road or flies right at the windshield, and it looks like they're going to hit, so they put on the brakes. And then they're just approaching this curve, and they put on the brakes, and this other car comes in. It's in their lane coming around the corner. If they had not put on the brakes, they would have been dead. They would have had a head-on collision with a fast-moving car on a lonely curve on a road. The owl saved their life. I've got a lot of owls saved my life stories.
But where's the owl in my story?
Yeah, you don't need an owl. So you got a voice in your head. I mean, someone could have an experience with a hummingbird. Someone could have an experience. Yeah, so I'm just...
Do you think it's connected to aliens? Do you? Do you think it's connected to aliens? Don't lie to me.
So it's not connected to aliens. Obviously,
Okay.
it's not connected to aliens. But so that voice was not your own voice.
No.
So something magical occurred, and we live in a society that does not recognize the magic of these kinds
That's
of
how
events.
every good smut book starts.
What?
That's how every good book starts.
You said good smut book or good?
No, just good book.
Okay.
We live in a society where people don't believe in magic, and the magic.
Oh yes.
comes
So we
after.
can watch fiction. We can watch Harry Potter, and we can get lost in the fantasy of all of this. But when it comes to the real world, we put the kibosh on it. Now I'm in a situation where I get story after story that involves owls. Not all of them involve UFOs. They involve all kinds of other things, but they have that magic. The story I just told about the owl saving someone's life on the road, that's consistent. That's a consistent story. There's a pattern. There's no UFO in that, but the owl plays this powerful role. I'm going to get back to the story. I'm Kristen eventually, but
I want to tangent real quickly.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Just because I wanted to
Do
get
you
from
want to talk about some ultralight stuff?
Chaunce's perspective. If you had to, the same question I asked Mike earlier, if you had to put your life savings on what that voice was.
I think it came from somewhere else. I can't say where. It's just not a voice. Like, I couldn't be like, oh, that's my mom's voice. I couldn't be like, oh, that's Nikki's voice. I couldn't pinpoint whose voice it was. And it wasn't like a voice that I recognized. It was just female. But it wasn't like, there weren't like organs playing in the background or like anything ethereal sounding.
Sure.
It wasn't like a, oh. It was just like literally some chick talking to me. And I didn't listen to her. And then she was like, no, you fucking listen. But not quite in those words. It was just the same sentence repeated.
From somewhere else. What do you...
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Well, where did it come from? I didn't have that thought. If it wasn't, like, all the thoughts in my head, and I have lots of them, in my thought.
But I asked you the question of what it was, and you said somewhere else. So there's something
because
to
it
that.
came outside of my head. Because
Yeah.
if it was a thought that was generated in my head, it would sound in my voice, as do the million other spiraling thoughts that just bees hive around the inside of my
Yeah.
head at all times.
Do you have any sense of where it came from?
No, because I didn't recognize the voice. So, like, it couldn't have been like, oh, I heard my mom reminding me I should put my seatbelt on, because it wasn't her voice.
Yeah.
You know, it couldn't have been like, oh, this person told me a million times to put my seatbelt on, because it wasn't their voice. It was a voice I didn't recognize. It was a stranger.
Okay, Mike, say something cool now.
Earlier on, I said 100% of the communication is telepathic.
Fuck.
So no, it's telepathic for Sasquatch. It's telepathic when people have a near-death experience and they talk to their grandfather in the magical white realm. There's nobody's lips move. So this is consistent in this. So you had it. There's a paranormal event, a mystical event, a magical event. You said it. You said the voice came from somewhere else.
Yeah.
So we could sit here and we could speculate for a next year. We'd never know where that other place was, but I would argue that I've been saying that the UFO occupants are the myth makers. Where do those myths come from? That myth comes from, are we self-generating that? Did you self-generate? Did your higher self, did some part of your subconscious burst out and say it? But you it doesn't sound like it. You feel...
But I could rationalize it and say, okay, my subconscious,
Okay,
not my conscious, but my subconscious knows that I should wear a seatbelt. And my subconscious
Yeah, but the timing
also,
is pretty crazy.
But my subconscious also knows that when a car is going fast around a turn, like, that is dangerous. And maybe my subconscious also knows that I wouldn't listen to my own voice because I'd write it off, or I wouldn't listen to my mom saying the 18th thing 1,000th time.
Yeah, the skeptic in
So I'd write that off. So
That's where you're coming from
maybe
right
my
now.
self-conscious said, let's put this in a different tone so she'll actually fucking listen this time, this dumb girl who doesn't listen to shit.
Yeah.
And then they just, like, gave it to me in a different tone so that I'd actually do it based on all the context clues that my subconscious had.
But subconscious can be magical too, right?
Well, it's a genuine unknown. We have it's like saying the subconscious, like what is the real? What really are we going to get down to? What's the
But
subconscious?
that's like the part of me that's like, okay, let's rationalize this.
Well, so I would argue, I said this earlier, if you stepped out of that rational point and intuitively looked at this,
I'd have to move to Sedona.
Right, you would be right there. You would be
Also
exactly, yeah. So you just did what I've seen so many other people do, where you said, well, it could have been this, could have been that. And I'm like, well, maybe something happened, where maybe my seeing the 5 gray aliens in my backyard was a dream. Yeah, it could have been a dream. Like, I didn't go and look at the footprints.
It could have been.
But except for the fact that there were so many powerful synchronicities connected to that event. So exactly what you were doing right now. So what I'm, as an outsider, someone who's got a lot of experience listening to people tell stories a lot of telling stories just like that. From my perspective, it's like something magical happened. Like, I don't know the source of that magic, but I can say that something magical happened.
Cool.
You said the voice came from somewhere else. Where that somewhere else is, I don't know. It's the land of the gods, the land of the dead, the land of our ancestors. That it's that other realm that I feel that the UFO occupants have access to that other realm.
Do you think I'm more prone to getting contacted now? I think my chances have gone up.
Maybe. I don't know. I can't answer that.
Tune back in at episode 600.
So I was doing exactly what you were doing.
Yeah.
I had missing time. I saw a close-up UFO. I had like 5 aliens in the backyard. Like, no, not me. It could have been a dream. Could have been something else. I could have been misremembering these events as a child. And then, but I was kind of reading, at that point, there came a point in the early mid-90s, I guess, where I started reading UFO literature. And what I found was that I would read these stories and I was like, ooh, that sort of could be me. Like, that story is sort of what happened to me. But here's what I did. I was like, no way, not me. Not going there. So, but I was having multiples of these kinds of events. And then camped in the mountains with Kristen. And there, like when you boil water, right before it starts to boil, if it's in the tea kettle, there's like it's almost like this tension, like it's gonna boil, it's gonna whistle any second now. That's what my life felt like, where it was like this. I'm gonna have to look into this UFO stuff, but no way, not going there. I'm not gonna do it. Not going there. So to have that happen once with Kristen was pretty cool. To have it happen twice within 4 days with the same person, potentially the same 3 owls, different part of the mountains. I've talked to a lot of owl researchers, and I've told this story, and they back away from me like I'm the crazy uncle.
Really? Are we the nuts?
Well, to the logical rationalist, yes, we're nuts. But to the sweet ladies, in Sedona, we're like part of the brotherhood.
The cult.
Yeah. No, cult is a rough word. Let's use a different word. Join the family. Join the brother.
Well, that's what they want to do. Soften it.
So I was right where you are.
Yeah.
Like, no way, not me. And then I saw owls. There was a UFO in the story. There was a voice in my head that said this has something to do with UFOs. So there was a message. The first book is called The Messengers. So Kristen and I both got totally obsessed with the owl thing. Spirit totems, what does it mean? What's the mythology? And then at the same time, I made my very first phone call to a UFO researcher named Leo Sprinkle. He's since passed on. He's died a couple years ago. Super big-hearted, sweet guy. He lived in Wyoming. I took the long drive from Idaho to Laramie and went to visit him. And I told him all my stories. This is a great story. So I told him all my stories. He's like this. He was in his 80s, and he was a therapist. So I sat like a therapist's office, sat in his couch, told him all these stories. 5 aliens out the backyard, missing time as a little kid. And then at the end of it, I kind of go, and I don't really think I was ever abducted. He slapped his thigh and he let out this huge belly laugh, and he just laughed in my face. In like, some people would say, well, that's not a very good therapeutic model, to laugh in the patient's face, but he sized me up. He knew exactly what he was doing, and it was great. It was really helpful. And so I saw owls in the mountains with Kristen. I started looking to my UFO events. My life fell apart. My illustration work ended. I stopped working for Knowles. I started writing obsessively. My life fell apart. What happened before the event? What changed after? My event was seeing 3 owls twice. When you get right down to it, it's not that interesting of a story. I saw some owls. It changed my life. And the books and the stuff now is all traces right back to that event. Now, Kristen, this go back 45 minutes now. Kristen said something, and I was like, this is a really sensitive person. I started a blog. You can look up my blog right on the first. You can scroll all the way back to 2009 and look up the very first posts. The second post was the story with Kristen, the one I just told. I've since added in the part where I said, the voice said this has something to do with UFOs. I didn't write that initially. Now, Kristen, I called her up, said, what were we talking about the very first night? Just before the first, we saw that first owl. She said, I remember exactly what I was talking about. I was giving my deepest, most heartfelt definition of what God means to me. Now, I'm not at all churchy in that sense, but I certainly recognize the mythic power of what she's saying. So here's another. So there came a point. Kristen and I had we were very similar. Like we had a pretty stormy kind of like. And I was doing very poorly. Like the synchronicities and the stuff in my life between about 2006 and 2013, I was really struggling because of these events in my life. And basically there's a voice in my head that was saying, this can't happen, but stuff was happening. Most of it was powerful synchronicities involving owls. I was seeing a lot of owls. People around me noticed it. So I called Kristen up. She moved back she was from Michigan. It's very, very close to where I grew up. And so I called her on the phone and I said, listen, actually it was interesting. She was on a train and she had a cell phone and she's on a train. And I say, listen, I think, like this and this. And I kind of told her a lot of this and I kind of built and told her the owls in the backyard and the missing time as a 12-year-old. And I was like so amped up and so tense. And I said, I think maybe, I've had contact experiences. I think maybe I've been abducted. Ooh. And she gave me the best advice. She said, which is very much like her, she said, quit your goddamn whining and do something. And then I wrote 4 books, big fat books on owls and UFOs.
Do you think that all of your owls and UFOs books are your way of trying to process what happened? Like, are you still seeking for the why?
Well, I don't have a good answer to the why. So
right,
yes.
But are you still seeking it? Is that why you're doing all this?
So your question was?
You're trying to process what happened.
So 100% yes.
You're seeking the why.
100% yes. 100% seeking the why. I've also given up, I don't think I'm ever going to get to the why because that voice in your head came from some other place. We cannot access that other place, right? Maybe if we meditated and lived in a temple in Tibet and meditated 6 hours a day, maybe we'd have a little glimpse into that other realm. But for the most part, we're stuck here in this realm, and that other realm can interact with us.
When do you think you went from trying to figure out, trying to process what happened with your encounter to accepting and then just embracing more info? Where was your tipping point from I'm trying to process what the fuck just happened to I'm accepting that this happened and I'm just now researching all these books, not because I need to know why, but because I want to know more or help other people? Mm-hmm. Or like you said, question 4, healing perhaps? So
you're asking when did it happen?
Yeah.
The afternoon of March 12th, 2013.
Stop. What happened on that day?
How much time do we have?
Enough time. We're good.
Oh, we might get.
We're having a podcast interview here. I hope you don't mind.
I need my popcorn.
So, oh my God. Okay, so I had a bunch of experience. Oh God, how to start? So I was at March 10th, 2013 was a tough one to tell quick. It takes me a half hour to tell this. I'm doing a talk.
I've got nowhere to be.
I'm doing a talk tomorrow. You want to go to my talk tomorrow?
Sure, where is it?
It's in Centennial.
Okay. Send me the address.
Tomorrow at 1, I'll give you the address.
Do you want to?
You be
Garrett's
there?
having a boys' day. I've got no plans.
Okay, go to Centennial. So
cool.
Yeah, so I'll text you the info afterwards.
What time is it?
1 o'clock.
Perfect.
So
I don't like to wake up early.
Okay, so And I do a slideshow, and so you'll hear this story abbreviated here, and then I'll tell it completely. Mary Kokenauer did the talk. She interviewed me on a show called for Gaia Radio or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but I told the whole thing, and she was riveted, and I was so if you could look that up, that has ultralight backpacking in it because she's an ultralight backpacker. So I'll abbreviate it. On March 10th, 2013, I slept on the side of the road in southern Utah. I have been back to that point many times since, but it is a little turnoff on the side of the road. You guys both know what it means to like drive in the west.
Slept on the side of the road.
Yeah,
in
you just
Utah.
kind of find this is a great turnout.
Yeah.
This is a great turnout. So I was coming back from a UFO conference, and I knew I was in this Highway 20 it was right near I-15. So I pull off to the side of the road. I lay down. It's cold. It's March. It's winter. Not winter in the sense that there's snow on the ground. There's some little clots of snow, but it was that desert night. So I love this kind of thing. It's beautiful, beautiful night, and sleeping under the stars. The same thing coming up again. So I sleep under the stars. So I was probably 11 or 9 or something, and so I wake up in the middle of the night, and there's a hilltop nearby, and there's this round structure on the top of the hilltop, and it's black, and it's got a row of lights around the edge of it. And I say to myself, that looks just like a landed flying saucer. And I was like, I already had the blog. I already had the blog going. The blog's been going for a few years. I've been I'm already known as the owl guy in the research. And I'm like, if this was I have, synchronistic paranormal stuff happen. I'm like, this was a UFO, and I'd feel the UFO vibe. I felt nothing. I felt absolutely nothing. So I rolled over and went back to sleep. A little while later, I woke up and there was a coyote howling right near my head. I sat up. I looked. It felt like I could have took a little dog biscuit and just tossed it in the coyote. There was nothing to see. That was weird. So that would be a totem animal. That's a mythic animal. That's an animal of the native lore. It matches the landscape. I've slept out thousands of nights under the stars like that. I've heard a lot of coyotes. I've never heard one that close. So that's an incidental detail, but wow, does it feel like interconnected to this bigger, stranger story. Woke up, and the round structure was still on the hill. So I woke up a little while later, and there's a bright light behind the bush. There's a juniper bush at my feet. My Subaru's parked here. There's some old fire rings. There's places where a car could turn.
Someone's headlamp?
I know what some I had.
A godly glowing.
I had 20 plus years of outdoor education under my belt at that point, and I know just what a headlight looks like at night. It was not a headlight. I know just what cars.
Was it like a glowing,
You're asking me to.
You're
doing the thing.
You're asking me what the voice was. I'm asking you what the glow was.
So in retrospect, very good for you.
Do you want to join this convo?
No.
Jump in. So in retrospect, I would say, it was an very unusual glowing light. Now, I rolled over, went back to sleep. The next morning, I get up, I drive home. It's still dark. I get back to my house in Driggs, Idaho. It's about 10 hours from southern Utah to my driveway in Idaho. And then I go into my house. The very first thing I do is I go in and look on Google Maps and see what that thing is. And there's no round structure on the hill.
Was it like a warm light, like how our typical lights are warm?
It would have been
orangey?
hot white, it was been white. The little pinpoints of light around the edge of. Oh, which light are you talking about?
The one behind the bush.
I would say it was white.
Okay, so it's not like your typical light you'd expect to see. It was a different shade.
It was a little. It would have been sort of a Steven Spielberg-y kind of like that kind of
Yeah.
It would have had John Williams music playing behind it.
Okay,
But
cool. That's a cool sound.
I get back to my house. I do an illustration. You can look it up on the blog right now if you want.
He's putting you to work, Zach. Hey, while you're sitting there, while we're having a conversation, would you mind looking this up?
So the blog is Hidden Experience. You can hiddenexperience.blogspot.com. Okay. When that comes up, just interrupt. So
this is fun.
So I did this illustration of the round structure. I used Photoshop, and I got the GPS coordinates of where I was sleeping. I got the GPS coordinates of where it was in a saddle. I'm really good with maps. It was on the saddle between two low humps. I found it exactly, and I obsessed and put it up. So the next day, that was the 11th. I called up. There's a UFO reporting site called MUFON. I contacted them. They didn't have any reports. It was just the night before. So it would have been actually the next day on the 12th. I was walking from one room to the other, and I was passing my desk, and I had this psychic vision, like just click, click, of a map of southern Utah and in Colorado, and this 3 spots on the map. And if you come tomorrow, you can hear all 3 stories. But
yeah.
so that
I'm there. I'll bring us burritos.
So the outlying points, I know what one was. That was the night. 2 nights before, March 10th, 2013, and there was an event that took place in May of 2010, which happened in Dolores, Colorado. And if I told that one totally, if I told you that one totally...
Give me the quickie. Give me a quickie version.
It sounds just like UFO abduction. It's
Where'd you
so
go?
weird. It's so weird.
Come on.
I can't. So I can go. Let me tell this.
Yeah. Finish
So
that
and
thought.
then there was a story in the middle that I'll tell this one in the middle. I was camping with my friend Natasha. Friend Natasha. So it's this line, right? So here's the camera. So there's a line, and there's 1, 2, 3 little push pins on it. That's what I saw on my site.
So your brain was basically like these 3 fucking things.
It was essentially a visual, like just undeniable click, click. I was right in front of my computer.
We gotta spell it out for this guy.
And so I sat down in front of my computer. I know how to make a map. I know just what it means to go on Google Maps. I know what it means to make a line. I know what it means to put a push pin in. I had done tons of map making for trails and like hiking, and so the line was 231 miles long, and 2 of the spots I was with my friend Natasha, who's had UFO contact experiences. She's a wonderful witness. I mean, a wonderful witness in the sense that she's very compelling and she tells the stories. She's an A+, like trustworthy character, and so I when I lined this up, so you have these 3 events that all seem like UFO contact, and you pull this, like if you have 2 points in space and you pull the wire really tight, it's always going to be a straight line.
Yeah.
I zoomed in on the one in the middle, and it passed exactly, like I can zoom in, it passed exactly where my sleeping pad was in the sand with Natasha.
Whoa. That makes me think of like...
No, hold on. So the night with Natasha's from Germany, and we've been driving, and she's jet lagged. She's jet lagged, and she can't sleep. And I like totally fell asleep. And we're in on the Burr Trail Road. Have you ever been on the Burr Trail Road? Escalante River runs right through it. So it's right by the town of Escalante. She says to me, "Mike, I can't sleep." And I say, "Well, take a walk. It's a beautiful night. It's a totally beautiful night." She says, "It's safe here?" I'm like, this part of southern Utah is pretty safe. Go ahead and take a walk. So I laid down and fell back asleep. I was drifting in and out of sleep. She walks away. So let me tell my story first. I'm laying there in the sand next to this juniper bush, and there is an owl in that bush. It is so loud. It is hooting so loud. I've heard a lot of owls at night. This thing is so close to my head and so loud. I sat up and I looked around. I tried to look at this thing in the bush. I couldn't see it. I cannot separate that from the coyote, right? The coyote was howling so close. And then so then all of a sudden Natasha runs back and she says, "We got to leave." I said, "What happened? What happened?" She said, "I was walking. And Natasha and I have sat with the maps, and here's where I was, here's where you were, and here's this." We we really scrutinized this. So she was walking down the road, so asphalt road at that point, and she said it was so magical out that night. The stars were so beautiful. I didn't need a flashlight. I didn't need a headlamp, and I've done a lot of ultralight camping with Natasha. I'll like to point that out too. So, and so she sees this little ball of light on the side of the trail, on the side of the road. And she said, "Is there someone out there with a flashlight?" And she realizes this little glowing orb of light, like this little orb. So it kind of floats along the sagebrush. Well, it was too far away, but it was, and then it kind of came towards her, grew really big, like the size of a beach ball, and then poof, disappeared. she got scared. So she ran back and woke me up. But she told me the story. Then I got scared, and we packed up the car and started driving. So that spot with a UFO and an owl, floating orb, that's an unidentified flying object. It qualifies as a UFO. When you line that up, 231 miles long. I have the exact GPS coordinates where I was sleeping at one end. I have the exact GPS coordinates of the other end. I've been back to all three places. I've slept at all three places in the last 10 years.
How do you do that without being just like totally freaked out?
How little you know of me.
I clearly lots.
So
We've really scratched the surface.
Can I ask a devil's advocate question?
Sure, go.
Because it makes a straight line on a map, would that still not be a straight line considering the curvature of the Earth?
I've actually talked to someone who worked at Google, and they've changed the maps, and it didn't work for a while, and then they changed the maps back. For a while, it looked like when you would zoom out away out of Earth, you would see the Earth floating in space, so there was lots of curved lines, and now they went back to the... So I have all the original screen grabs of the original stuff. It does not do it anymore. It's pretty close, but it does not line up exactly.
Okay.
So, but if we wanted to go to the Google archives, we could get the maps from March 12th, 2013,
Sure.
and it lines up exactly.
Okay.
So when that happened, I like all the stuff which you were doing, which I did, like, oh, it could have been this, could have been that, could have been a dream, can't happen to me. Oh, it's this. That shut down completely. It was like the voice in my head that had been saying, this can't happen, this can't be happening, Mike, it's impossible, can't be happening. At the same time, it was happening. Weird shit was happening in my life. And so that tape loop got pulled out of my head, and there was quiet. You asked me, when did I get to that part where I accepted it? It was the afternoon of March 12th, 2013.
All right. Well, that's like the best, most clarifying answer I could have hoped for.
Okay. So,
I started to dig through your blog, and then
oh,
I
here,
got
just
sidetracked. I
go
found a UFO video
on the sidebar.
Suzanne
Show
Chancellor,
me.
Oh, that's it. Yes. So just scroll down the sidebar on the. I think it's on the
right side.
left side. There's a picture of my face.
Okay.
And it says, "Now I know."
I gotta pee.
Oh, does this happen often, where you actually take pee breaks in the middle of it?
Yeah,
I've got the smallest bladder.
Most podcasts.
Wow.
Okay, now I know.
You're welcome to, but I'm gonna go first.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go here in a second. Now I know.
I don't even want to know how long we've been going. So.
Yeah, I don't think about it. This is one of those.
It's 300.
Time skipping events. What
300. Missing time.
Missing time events. Yeah. I now know. Do you want me to read this?
No, it would make you crazy to read it. But so I'm looking. You're looking. I'm looking at the back of your laptop. Scroll down a little bit, and there should be two links.
Okay.
One says the map.
Stars and the map. Yeah.
Click the night under the stars. Click both of them. Open both those up, and then you'll get the images of. You'll see my obsessive map making and the GPS coordinates.
I see the straight line, and the owl and orb scene is on the line, not exactly the midpoint.
It's not at the midpoint, but it does line up if you zoom in close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sleeping out under the stars. Oh, so you actually got a photo of this?
No, it's which.
This is
I
sleeping out under the stars in southern Utah.
I did screen grabs from Google Street View, and then you know what I did? I went back and there's a picture. It's got some snow on it.
This is the one I'm talking about.
No, that's I'm an illustrator, professional illustrator.
Oh, okay.
People have said that to me before. I actually have to put a little disclaimer on it because you're not the first person who said that. It's like I did that with Photoshop.
Yeah.
So, but that's pretty close to what it looked like.
Okay. Yeah. And what year is this?
2013.
Do you have a camera with you? Why don't you document it?
I didn't have a camera with me.
Okay.
That was before the advent of the smartphone for me.
Yeah.
I was pretty late coming to the smartphone.
Sure,
so
fair
I had a
enough.
flip phone and we had a shitty camera.
Yeah.
So
I guess has always been my.
Here. Okay, let me just interrupt.
Yeah.
You go next full moon.
Yeah.
Take your camera. Take a picture of the full moon.
I mean, I've done it before. It's always boring.
It's pretty boring.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Right.
People, there's I see
That's
a lot
that's
of
a fair
pictures.
point. That's
I
a
see a
fair
lot of
point.
pictures. Like, I saw this thing, and you can see the moon. You can see the
Right.
shapes of the moon. Like a little kid can actually pick out, with some kid, or even like a pair of binoculars. You can see the surface of the moon.
Yeah.
You can't see it in a phone. So if you need a tripod and a zoom lens and stuff. So I see a lot of pictures. People send me pictures. They're little dots.
Yeah.
They're little dots.
You disarmed my holdup, not only with the UFO thing, but just paranormal stuff in general. I feel like with game cameras everywhere and everyone is documenting everything all the time, the amount of stuff that we do capture, the fact that we don't have more physical evidence of this stuff keeps the skeptic in me alive and well. But that's a great point about, like, I've got like a 4x zoom on my iPhone. You take a photo of the moon and it looks like nothing. So, like, if it's something that's a smaller aspect than the moon, it's going to look indiscernible from like any sort of light in the sky. I'm just wondering why there's not someone out there with like a nice DSLR.
Oh, what happened?
That's my phone. Why there's not clearer evidence of some of this stuff.
Yeah. So the answer is, so the strict materialist would say people have lousy phones. It's hard to take a picture at night. People have a cell phone. Cell phones are great for taking selfies, at the beach. They're really lousy for taking a picture of so that the woman, Laura, who saw the image above her head in the parking lot where the parking lot turned red. Not that interesting. Some dots. You can see the dots, but there's nothing to see.
Yeah.
So I get that kind of stuff all the time. People send me videos, and you can hear it in their voice. They're like, oh my God, oh my God. But if it was an airplane or something like that, they wouldn't say that. You're looking at it. It's like it's a little dot. There sure is a little dot in the sky, but you're asking. Here's another thing that happens. People will, like two people will be in a car and they'll turn a corner and one will see a hovering flying saucer just above the road, or three people in a car, two will see a hovering flying saucer above the road. The other person says, I don't see anything. I'm not seeing anything.
So they're not tapped into the frequency?
Something unknown is taking place.
Okay.
So one way to say this is that the UFO occupants are doing this on purpose.
Yeah.
They're the same way that they can make a person see a owl in the road. Potentially, I'm just speculating. I'm totally riffing. I'm like I got nothing to back me up here except just my own curiosity and just wondering. So they could, given the fact that they can make someone see a 4-foot owl on the road, couldn't they make someone see a shiny aluminum-looking flying saucer? So here's another thing that happens. People go out in New York City. They see like a giant 700-foot wide saucer hovering right above a neighborhood in New York City. They're the only ones that see it. Like every car should stop. People should panic. Nobody else sees it.
Yeah.
So something genuinely paranormal, something genuinely mysterious is taking place.
What's the difference between that and, let's say, like schizophrenia, where maybe they're tapping into something that actually exists and they're the only ones who can see it, or maybe it is just a hallucination that is a manifestation of some sort of chemicals firing in someone's brain?
So there was a researcher named Bud Hopkins, and there was also a researcher named Dr. John Mack. He was the chair of the psychiatry department at Harvard. So he was like not a shrinking violet. I mean, this guy you don't get higher credentials on planet Earth than the chair of the psychiatry department at Harvard. He ran tests. Other researchers have run tests. The people who have these experiences, just a general person. Well, just there's I'm not a clinician like this, but just a general diagnostic set of questions. And what they say is the person does not show signs of mental illness. They do show signs of stress and potential trauma in their life. Oh, yes.
Thanks. My question is, let's say we're talking about someone can see something that other people can't, right? Like maybe someone sees a UFO and other people didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Topic you guys were just having. How do you know that anything is then real? Like, how do I know I can see that jacket and you can see that jacket versus just I can? Like, how do I know that anything I see is real?
So if two thoughtful people sit down and talk about UFOs, if they're thoughtful and open-minded, they should, within 3 minutes, get to the really big questions. Like, why am I here? What does it all mean? What happens after we die? what is the fabric of reality? So you're asking a good question. You're asking basically, what is the fabric of reality and how much should I trust it? And that the strict materialist would say, you trust the fabric of reality because it is, this table is hard, the laws of physics only work one way. But then you start tipping into the UFO lore and hearing the stories, and then time does not work the same way as it normally does. The what we would call our understanding of physics falls apart. So you're asking exactly the right question. How can we trust anything? This is what makes this research so maddeningly difficult.
Okay, but instead of like, and I absolutely hear what you're saying, but instead of the broad answer, which is just like, that's what makes it so interesting, right? Like, what is your answer if we ask those questions? Like, why am I here? What is your answer to that?
At the core of it, there's some magic that takes place, right? So we're alive in this realm. There's such beauty here. It is offset by such darkness and such sorrow. So I am now at the point where, like, I see, you said, oh, that voice came from somewhere else. I recognize that this somewhere else, this other realm, is interacting with us as humans somehow. Most of us are closed off to it. Every once in a while, I'll get a little glimmer of something, a voice in your head, a vision of three lines on a road, or three dots on a map. So, yeah, you're asking the big questions.
Well, yeah, why am I here?
Well, yeah, like we could. This is go back
No,
to
that's the same question I just asked, though. You said all that, which is great, but why am I here?
Yeah. So
what's your take?
So go to the philosophy department. If there's
I want to know your department.
Okay.
What's going on in the department of your brain? Why am I here?
I would say that just beneath this concrete level of physical reality is a magical reality that is holding it all in place and is making up the fabric of life. A quantum physicist might have very big words, and they would essentially say the same thing. A Buddhist monk could say the same thing using a completely different vocabulary. I am not looking for that answer of why we are here. I'm looking for the life lessons embedded in these stories.
What do you think about the thought that we are all living in a computer simulation?
Oh, that one holds a lot of. You could go right down that avenue. There's a lot of compelling data there.
But are people like us the ones pushing the buttons simulating, or is it like green-headed aliens pushing the buttons simulating? Like, if we're in a simulation, who runs the simulation?
Yeah, like that's a tough one to answer. Yeah, like why
Any
are we
thoughts?
here? Why? Like I could speculate. I mean, it could be God. It could be just the natural fabric of reality needs to be structured the same way that a video game is structured. But who invented this grand video game?
Right.
Yeah.
And are they in a simulation? Yeah. And then the third one of your questions, you said there were 3 questions that you would have if you had an open conversation. What happens after we die?
Oh, I've been doing a lot of reading of near-death experience books. I've been talking to a lot of people who've had the near-death experience. And so my very strong sense is that, okay, you asked me what I feel, what I sense. Reincarnation is real. There's an in-between realm. After we die, everyone says, not everyone, but there's a very consistent set of reports that people say, I entered a timeless realm. I was greeted by either spirit guides or family members, and I was told, it's not your time, you need to go back. And they basically said, we'll be waiting for you when it is your time. The people who come back from the near-death experience, almost universal, they have no fear of death after they've come back from the near-death experience.
I should have got closer to death that time.
Yeah,
that would have been nice. I'm terrified.
Okay, I would say read some near-death experience books.
I've seen this too. It's like for the time that they're dead, there's a sense of peace So to fear that peaceful realm just doesn't make sense anymore.
I've had talked to people who are so angry that the basically the voice, the disembodied voice says, you have to go back, and they're like, no, I do not want to go back to that life. Yeah. Well, oftentimes they're I mean, so it's like, your people say they look down at their body on the operating table, they're floating away and they enter this realm. But when they're looking down at their own body, they're like, that thing means nothing to me.
Oh, interesting.
That means nothing to me.
I saw like a man on the street style interview where some guy was telling about like he was legally dead for a period of time, and when he came back, he was depressed because the body that he was inhabiting wasn't as peaceful as death that he had experienced. And like, it's not like he wanted to go back to being dead, but he just experienced so much more peace in death than he felt in life, which is a weird, because people spend so much anxiety fearing death.
But what part of that comes from a lack of oxygen to your brain?
Ooh, the consistency is. So there's a book called, here, let me just say one thing, that there's a name for that. That near-death experience researchers call that the trauma of enlightenment.
Wow. So
that's well understood within the research community that's looking specifically into the near-death experience. And you said, lack of oxygen. There's a man who is named Ibn Alexander. This is another one. He was the chair of the neurosurgeon department of Harvard Medical School. He was the top neurosurgeon, like it's similar to John Mack. He was the top neurosurgeon on planet Earth, essentially. He had cerebral meningitis, inflammation of the brain, and he was in a coma, I think, for a week. His book is called Proof of Heaven. His oxygen levels were being monitored for 7 days. He essentially came back. I got to be really careful. He felt he lived for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. He like saw and lived the experience of Earth from rocks to bugs, eventually to people, and then so he was in a coma, never died, always had a heartbeat, and he was uniquely positioned to look at his own medical records coming out of it, and they monitor him. They knew his potassium levels in his bloodstream. They knew his brain activity on the EKG. So that's a remarkable book.
Why'd you say you have to be really careful in the middle of telling that story?
What did I say?
You just said I got to be really careful, and then you kept telling the story.
Oh, because I'd have to back up and re-listen. So when I say I got to be really careful, either I'm opening up like an avenue of conversation that's just too huge, or
you don't want to blow my mind.
Oh, I don't mind blowing your mind. I got no problems blowing your mind, but I also just want to be careful not to like when I'm speculating. I try to be really clear when I'm speculating. If I know something, I'll say I know it.
Yeah.
But if I'm speculating, so sometimes I got to be careful because I get all amped up, and I want to make sure my ducks are in a row, and I'm not riffing.
Cool. As long as you're not leaving any dirty alien details out, I just want to make sure you're giving all those.
I haven't given any.
I want the whole scope of these experiences.
Where do you want to go with this interview right now?
I don't know if we can. I mean, we talked about God and like the meaning of life and stuff like. It's pretty
been
tough.
To a lot of places.
Yeah, it's pretty like cutting your handle off your
toothbrush doesn't mean much. Pots?
I think. So yeah, I mean, so can I tell a little bit more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I did a hypnosis session for the night of March 10th, 2013.
On that night, or just to go back to?
So the event happened March.
Yeah. You could have done hypnosis same night.
No, I didn't do it the same night, but I went to a hypnotherapist in Pasadena, California. Her name is Yvonne Smith. She's a wonderful, sweet, big-hearted woman. She's really remarkable. She's a clinician. She's not interested in solving the UFO mystery. She's interested in providing healing for people. So she's a therapist first, a researcher second. So I went to her I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm going to say this whole thing tomorrow again. You're going to get to hear me say some of this
I
again
can't
tomorrow.
wait. You
So
have to send me the address.
So I visit her office. I say, I want to talk about the night of March 10th, 2013, the coyote, the light behind the bush, the round structure on the hill. And I want to talk about, I got no fear associated with that night. It was a really pretty night. I heard the coyote howling. It was a really cool experience. It was like a really wonderful, I felt blessed to hear that so close. And she said, great, okay. And so that would have been in 2018. So that 5 years later, I had already written the book, The Messengers. And I had already written a second book, Stories from the Messengers. I was already like well entrenched in this field as like the owl guy. I'd had a podcast. I've been on a million podcasts as a guest. I've told stories like this over and over and over again. So I go to her, like she's got a couch, and she and I say, hey, when I'm under, and like I'm in that hypnotic space where like maybe you can access my subconscious, you ask me what's up with the owls. She goes, of course. I'm trying to figure out how much should I. So now I
Go
gotta
deep.
Be, now
Tell
I gotta
me
be
all of it. Don't sugarcoat this. Tell me all of it.
So she goes through the induction, and I'm like, she's like, that night I'm lying next to my old Subaru, next to the juniper bush, along Highway 20, southern Utah, cold night. I say, oh my God, it's pretty out. There's stars are up there. I've got my head's on a pillow. I brought my own pillow. I got a big thick sleeping bag. It's warm. It's really pretty, and I can look over that hill. There's that round thing on the hill. I can see it. And she goes, what happens next? I mean, I talk a little bit, and then all of a sudden I go, it's them. It's them. I know it's them.
Dude, you're like out of a horror movie. How does this not freak you out?
How little you know of me. So I did.
Know.
So
we gotta
so
become closer friends.
Oh no. So to be fair, I spent years of my life being totally freaked out.
Okay.
And
as long as like that makes you more normal. If
okay.
you just weren't freaked out,
people,
like I'd be freaked out about you.
You know who you could ask how freaked out I was? You asked.
Skirka?
No, Skirka doesn't know. Skirka didn't. Well, he did actually know me in those years. But that woman, Kristen, she could tell you that. Like you were wrapped pretty tight those years. So
what's Skirka's take on all the owls and aliens?
Well, let's get back to the story because
Zach, please don't interrupt us in our conversation.
So Skirka would be. I worked at Skirka a lot.
Yeah.
And we'd be like at the camp, and everyone's there, and we're sitting around, the sun's setting. He goes, Mike, tell us an owl story.
Yeah, I'd hire you as a guide in a heartbeat.
I was like, okay, here we go. Here's an owl story. And then, so that was so, and lots of story time on the trail.
Yeah.
It's not his main avenue of interest, which is fine. So, where was I? So I did the thing, this is funny. I've done this so many times. I've gotten very good at going, it's them. It's them.
Oh, yeah, I do that.
I know it's them. Now, I also transcribed. There's a book called Hidden Experience. You can actually, the whole transcript is online somewhere. It's online. You won't be. It'll take you a while to find it. But I have the whole transcript of my hypnosis session, and Yvonne says, "Okay, what happens?" And I was like, "It's them. They're behind the bush. It's the white light." And then I say, "I'm out. I'm out." I'm out. I'm up above. I'm looking down. I'm looking down at this big round thing. I'm looking down from above, so it's a circle. I can see the row of lights around it. It's like black in the night sky, and I'm out. And I think I'm still in the sleeping bag. My body is still in the sleeping bag. Mm. And then Yvonne says, "Mike, are you out of body?" And I go, "I don't know. I'm looking down at this round structure, and I feel like I'm still in the sleeping bag." Now let me say this. I'm going to tell a remarkable, weird story.
Yes.
I don't believe it's true.
Oh.
I believe it's a great story. I believe as a myth, there's powerful stuff in the story. It's too big, too weird for me to say it's true. It might be. I could spend $1 million in the next 15 years researching this. I'd never have a better answer than saying, maybe. So the story I'm about to tell, I got to front load this by saying, at the end, I'm going to back load it and say, like, I don't trust this story. So the story I'm about to tell you, like, you can hear, I have the transcription, I have an audio of it. She says, okay, are you out of body? And I'm like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden there's like this kind of jump cut. And I'm in.
I huff on my inhaler first.
Okay, so I don't want you to.
I'm excited.
Okay. So all of a sudden there's like this, and I'm in this hallway. And it's like this round hallway that's curved. And quite honestly, if there was a flying saucer and there was a circular hallway on the inside of a flying saucer that went around the entire interior, it felt like I was walking that curved hallway. And I'm walking it. Now I'm 6 foot tall. And my very first thought is, I'm not tall. I'm not tall. I know what it means to be 6 foot tall. This is something. I'm not tall. And you can hear me. I just say it like to Yvonne, I'm not tall. And she goes, Mike, look down at your body. So I look around, and there's a gray alien on one side, and there's a gray alien on the other side. And she looked down at your body, and I got these long, skinny fingers, and these skinny, tight-fitting suit on. I'm the exact same height as the beings right and left of me, and I say, Yvonne, I think I'm a gray alien. And she doesn't skip a beat. I talked about this afterward. I talked to her about this afterwards, and I said, does this happen a lot? She says, oh, this happens all the time. This happens all the time. People say the same thing. So what I'm saying now is like, wow, a lot of people say that they feel like they got turned into. And we actually talked about it afterwards. It's not in the transcription, but we talked about it. It felt like my astral self, like my spirit self, my body's in the sleeping bag, my spirit self goes whoosh, into a rubber suit of a gray alien, and I'm walking down the hall. Totally normal. Felt like totally normal. And then all of a sudden she goes, what happens next? And I'm in a conference room. It's this really ugly, tacky conference room with ugly beige carpeting and ugly fluorescent ceiling and like kind of a Walmart folding tables. And I'm standing there, and I'm facing this table, and there are 8 or so beings at this table, and they're all kind of grayed out. They're kind of fuzzed out. But they sure feel like they're. Oop, you okay? Oh, sorry. I thought you had a asthma
I'm
thing.
just excited.
Okay, so I'm standing in front of them, and I say, "Why am I here?" And they go, "You chose this. You volunteered for this." And I go, "What do you mean I volunteered for this?
You
Why?"
seem like the type. You're writing all these books. Of course you'd volunteer for
I hadn't
this.
written them yet.
Yeah, but you are the same person that wrote these books.
Get ready. So this is you're going to, don't steal my thunder here.
Sorry.
Because I'm going to, so, because exactly what you're saying, I'm going to wrap it all up. So why am I here? You volunteered for this. No, wait, why am I here? And they go, now is the time. What does that mean? Now is the time. You volunteered for this. So I'm stuck in this thing. And then there comes this point when I am like, this is really rough to listen to on the audio of the hypnosis itself. Like I start screaming and swearing. Pardon?
Do you have it on your phone?
No.
Like the recording?
No, I'm not going to put this one out there publicly. It's like, it's harrowing. Like
I
can't, it's bad. It's rough. So I'm screaming, I'm swearing. I'm like, I point to them like, you never told me it would be this hard being here. You never told me there would be pain. You never told me there would be loneliness. You never told me there would be sadness. You never told me it would be this hard being here. And I'm furious, and I'm like, this is like, I'm screaming, this is so fucked up. They don't understand. This is so fucked up.
You're yelling at the aliens. I'm
yelling at I'm in a little therapist's room. I'm screaming at the aliens, and Yvonne is like, Mike, what's happening? What's happening? And I say, like, they don't understand. They do not understand what it means to be here. They don't understand emotions. They don't understand, like, sadness. And so
is they the aliens or the therapist?
There's the aliens.
Okay.
So the implication is, now this is, again, I'm backing out. Like, I can't say this is true. This is how it plays out. Sometimes I call this a dream. It was a hypnosis session. Sometimes I just, in the dream, I'm talking about the hypnosis session. It feels like I was somehow one of them in a previous incarnation. We talked about.
This is going to lead so well into my next question. Please continue.
So I incarnated here on this earth to play a role. And anyway, this is the swearing's going on, but this is clearly what's going on. And then finally Yvonne says, like, what do they want? And I scream, they want me to play some role. And then I went from, you can hear it on the audio, you can hear me go, and I was like so tense and angry and like so angry, so emotional. And then I go to like literally my breathing stops. It felt like my heart stopped. I'm on this little couch and I feel like I just shut down. And there's 45 seconds of total silence. I was as calm. I was like a Zen practitioner. I had achieved mastery at the meditative state. I went from one extreme to the other instantly. You can hear it. And then Yvonne says, Mike, what happens next? And I go, I think I'm still in the sleeping bag. Or I think I'm back in the sleeping bag. So we talk a little bit. She asked me some questions. I'm like, I don't know. I can't get there. I don't know what it means. I'm like, well, what about this? I'm like, I don't know. And then she goes, and Mike, what is your connection to owls?
No.
Because I told her at the beginning.
Oh, okay, you did.
I told her at the beginning. I asked her at the beginning. And I can just riff this out without, like, this is seared into my mind. So when you do hypnosis, like you kind of whisper. You talk very whispery. Oops, you're going to sneeze again.
Yeah, don't mind me. Keep going.
So you kind of whisper.
I'm listening.
And is this me telling the story that's making you sneeze?
No, I'm just excited.
Okay. Does she sneeze with when Coop?
Before.
Oh, you've never sneezed?
I've never once in my life sneezed before.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So when you're under hypnosis, you kind of talk real quietly. There's long pauses, and so all of a sudden I spoke very clearly. She said, "What are the owls? What is your connection to owls?" And I say, "The owls aren't important." And I'm like, good God, I've been like a decade of getting up in the morning and answering emails, and it's owls all day long, and writing books on owls and answering phone calls on owls and podcasts on owls. And so I say, the owls aren't important. I am an artist, and I know the importance of a symbol and how people need a symbol. The owl is a symbol. The owl is a symbol on a door, but the owl is not important. The door is important. The owl is the correct symbol for the door, but the owl is not important. We are on this side of the door in a tight, claustrophobic little hallway, and on the other side of the door is an infinite vastness.
Whew.
And that changed the way I look at the owl thing. Like I was much less clinging to the owls and UFOs, just owls and UFOs. I've realized that the owl is much more of a symbolic, mythic element. Now here, you asked a question earlier. I'm going to get back to it. That the night in question was the night of March 10th, 2013. I just told the story, which was kind of long-winded, but then I saw the line on the map, and I had the thing where the tape loop gets pulled out, and the things line up in a straight line, and I have my confirmation. I am no longer struggling. I'm at peace. That happened on March 12th. I started writing the book, The Messengers, the first owl book, on March 12th. I started writing the book less than 48 hours after, if it all lines up, less than 48 hours after the night under the stars where I saw the round structure on the hill. If my hypnosis session is believable, I don't trust it entirely. I don't think there's a ugly...
I think I trust it more than you do.
Everyone does. So,
That's like how you trust my voice in my head more than I do.
So Yvonne says, what do the aliens, what do they want? And I scream, they want me to play some role. Less than 48 hours later, I start writing the book that has come to define my life.
Do you think you're an alien scribe?
I speculate on that in the first book. I got to be really cautious because I've talked to other authors. Like there was magical events when I was writing the first book where like I needed like this chapter needs just the perfect story. And I would go to bed, I'd get up the next morning and I can't finish this chapter. I just need just the one story. And then the email comes in, it's the perfect story. I drop it right in. It's like and that happened over and over and over again. I've talked to other authors and they say, you know what, we really know you're in the flow when that happens.
So maybe that's why aliens aren't trying to find you, because they know that you're writing all this shit. Maybe they know you're writing all this shit because they wanted you to write all this shit. You know, I'm not calling your stuff shit, but I'm saying you're writing this collection of things.
You're not saying anything that I haven't
No, but I really am not referring to your writing as shit.
No,
But
no,
you
no,
know what
no.
I'm saying? Like the collective.
I know.
whole of
Yeah,
things.
like have I been impelled by? You're asking questions that are big.
Well, because earlier I asked, do you think the aliens are, like, do you think they know that you're writing this stuff, and why wouldn't they like come after you for writing this stuff? But now you're making it seem like they sent you on the path to write this stuff. So of course they know you're writing it, and maybe they want you to be writing it.
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that so? Wow! Like I can tell the story
all night.
yes. So what you're saying is how it feels. At the same time, I recognize how nutty it sounds, but I'm trusting that, and as I've made a concrete decision to not hold back in sharing the stories because, and here's the reason why, because people reach out to me and say, "Oh, I've had this experience too."
But I also think you don't have fear towards it, because if you were just writing all these stories and collecting all this research and didn't feel a connection to these alien figures, then there could be a sense of paranoia that if I find out too much, they might not like that. However, like, your total acceptance of writing it and your lack of fear and your experiences makes it seem like you feel like they're okay with you not only doing this, but wanting you to do this.
Do you feel compelled to do this?
I am sure acting like I'm compelled to do this.
Because, like, think of a detective who, like, if they're going after bad guys and they're researching all this stuff, like, the bad guys want to stop them and stop them from learning more. But you don't feel that. You feel like it's your purpose to
I
learn
feel
more.
like stuff is landing in my lap through magical means. Stories after story of like the most powerful, beautiful stories are landing in my lap, and I would drop this owl thing in an instant if it no longer proved to be fascinating. I am pulling on the thinnest thread of the. Owls is almost an insignificant part of the UFO mystery. I'm pulling on the one little thin thread. It is proving to be endlessly fascinating and endlessly rewarding. I would drop it in a second if I lost interest in it. My interest is only increasing because of the richness and the power of these stories. I've told really that one story of Laura, who got touched on the head by an owl and then gave her kidney up. She saved a life.
If an owl touched you on the head, would you give me your kidney?
Sure.
He just said no earlier. I've got 2 questions before I toss it back to Zach. The first one I already don't remember. The second one I wrote down. Based on you talking about I'm not that tall when you're going around this round building. First off, going around the round building reminds me of that Twilight Zone episode, To Serve Man. Have you ever seen it?
Of course.
Yeah, great episode. But then you being like, I'm not that tall, and then you like look around you after they say look, and you've got like gray alien fingers and shit. That, and then I can't remember the second thing you said, but before you give any explanation, just answer with a number. What % of you thinks you're an alien?
2.
Okay.
So alien is a funny word, right? So alien, if you look alien up in the dictionary, it has the something.
But you know the way I'm asking.
Yes. But it also means something. I'm paraphrasing this from memory. Something that is so different as to be unknowable. Like, wow, that's a great definition of the word alien. So that is, I think, what we're dealing with. Something that is so different that it is unknowable to us. So, yeah, and whatever. Like, on maybe next week, I might have a different feel. You're going to go to the event tomorrow. You talk to the people right and left of you at that event. They're going to show. People are going to that event for a reason. People are going to have some stories.
But your number's 2%.
2, yeah, 20%. 22 would be 20%.
20% out of 100.
Oh, you didn't say. You said out of 10, didn't you?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, you said
20%.
20%.
Okay, so out of 10, 2.
Yeah, out of 120.
Zach, have you ever played odds?
Yeah, I've played odds.
Out of 1 to 10, count us down. Have you played odds?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so odds are, you say the odds that you would do something.
Okay.
Like, there is a 2 in 10 chance that you're an alien. There's a 2 in 10 chance I'd finish my beer. That sort of thing.
Okay.
Someone counts us down, and we both pick a number between the lower and upper threshold, which this would be 10. So we will both pick a number, right? 2 and 10. No, 2 and 10 we would boil it down to 5. It would be 1 and 5.
1 and 5 is.
So we'll do simplifying. 2 over 10, if you're doing math, 2 over 10 simplifies to 1 over 5.
Mhm.
Agree?
Mm-hmm.
So if Zach counts us down and we both pick a number between 1 and 5, there is that 20% chance that we will say the same number.
Okay.
So he's going to count us down.
So what are we picking?
Yeah,
We're
what are
picking a
the-
number
what are the
between 1 and 5.
consequences here?
No, there's no consequences. We're just choosing a number between 1 and 5 and seeing if we land on the same one
Okay.
for supernatural reasons.
Okay.
Because he said that's the percentage that he could be an alien. If we land on the same number, I think you are an alien.
I don't think you said I am an alien, but you said like I came from alien. I don't know how you
No, I
phrased
said
it.
what percent. I wrote it down. What percent of you thinks you are an alien?
Oh, so I would so I'm me. I'm totally me. So
Yeah.
is
You
there
said 20%
is there
of you
something in
thinks-
my soul essence that would be? I would
Because
say
you
20%.
had that vision of yourself.
Yes, but I said it was a rubber suit.
Right, we're not going like total technicalities, but
Okay.
is 20 the answer? 20%?
20% that there. Let's say in my soul essence, I would say 20% of me says that part of that soul essence could be an
Okay.
alien.
Is this like a 1 in 5 chance that you're an alien?
Yes.
Or like a 20, like if we do like a 23 and me, you're 20% alien?
No. I think if we count down 3, 2, 1, and we both say a number
Okay.
between 1 and 5, there's a 20% chance that you and I say the same
Great.
number.
Okay.
And so if we say the same number,
I
you
got
are
my
an
number. I
alien.
got my number right
I've got
here.
my number.
Okay.
Count us down, Zach.
3, 2, 1.
3.
5.
Oh, you're not an alien.
Okay. So I'm me. Obviously, I look like my mom and dad. I look like my brother and
Yeah, but
sister.
aliens sometimes look like owls.
But that's a screen memory. That's done.
Maybe my screen memory says you look like you.
Okay.
Take us back, Zach.
Well, so I have to give the unfortunate news that I do have a timeline here, and we are at 3 hours.
Is this a record?
Not a
No.
record, but it's on the longer end of the
Okay.
podcasting spectrum for us.
Okay, I'm going to celebrate with an Oreo.
So, yeah, celebrate with an Oreo. But if you've got more burning questions,
Do you have any ultralight questions?
yeah, well, we have a sponsor question, which is we'll probably come back to a Chaunce question. I honestly feel terrible to wrap it, but I had that.
Okay, here, let me just say, Shayla Paradise,
Previous guest. Of the podcast.
previous guest. I did an interview with her on my podcast. She had a powerful owl experience that led to, I got to be very cautious. I'm doing the thing. I got to be very cautious. I'm telling someone else's story. She had an epiphany, or let's say a spiritual awakening that coincided with this owl experience. Let's say a mystical experience. It changed the direction of her life. She started looking into shamanism. She's now studying shamanism. She's working with a shaman elder. This is
Number 4.
pardon?
That's number 4. Healing.
Yes, she is the textbook healer in like what I'm finding in these
And she was
accounts.
saying in our interview with her that she had this uncanny ability, supernatural essence, where people would come up to her and like just confess things to her.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? That's shamans. That's a shaman thing. I know a shaman, and it's funny. Someone said, like, how do you know shamans? Like, who knows a shaman? And I'm like, yeah, you write a book about owls, you're going to meet a lot of shamans.
Yeah.
So, and he just was like, he was in the hospital. He had a heart attack. He's in the hospital. And like the guy mopping the floor would come into the room and tell him his problems. And he's just like, oh God, I can't get away from it. Or like tell him his like pour their heart out to him.
Yeah, that is a real thing.
Yeah. So that's a real thing that shows up in people's lives.
Yeah.
And I have talked with her at length, and I've read her book and stuff like that. Wow, she has that about her.
Mm-hmm.
It's a curse too at times.
Certainly, that's a lot of emotional baggage to take on, especially when you're trying to deal with your own stuff. It's not always the easiest. Okay. This is going to be a fun tangent. The Stay Salty question presented by LMNT. Use our URL drinklmnt.com/trek to get a free sample pack with your order. What is your hottest take in the world of backpacking or the outdoors at large?
Oh my God, my life has changed so much. I don't do it as much as I used to.
You could take it in any direction. I'll give you 2 alternate questions, and you can answer whichever one sounds the most appealing to you. If you were going to write a new edition of Ultralight Backpacking Tips, what's something that you would add? Alternate question to that is, what is the tip that you are the biggest violator of?
Ooh.
Oh, okay. So if I was to, I've actually thought about doing an audiobook about my sort of a memoir, because I would want to include poetry. When I worked in the field with Knowles, and I did it with Skirka too. Skirka was funny. He laughed when I would do it because I'd pull out. We'd get to a stop, and I had a little thing that I carried, a little readings. It was poetry and stuff like that. And I would read poetry at the breaks or around the camp at night, and it was really rewarding, and I loved doing it. And some people responded really well to it. So, Mary Kokenauer. She said, "Where do I give me that book? Give me that little pamphlet, your poetry reading pamphlet." So she has that pamphlet now. So I just Xerox it off. So I would include more poetry and more of the, the reasons we go out into the mountains rather than just, the toothbrush cutting stuff. And then the next question was,
any tips that you violate, like you find now?
Oh, I violate them all.
Okay.
So I'm not perfect. So
do you find, because it seems like there's an archetype for a lot of people in the UL sphere, is that they start out heavy, hate it, find their absolute lowest weight that they can backpack at and still survive. And then as they get older, they start to add in luxuries and layers because they find out that they like having a pillow or they like this, that, or the other.
I now carry a pillow instead of the pillow there. We talked about that in the last time. And I carry a full-length pad. So I violate them all. I violate them all, and presently I'm not making a spreadsheet for every trip I go on too. So, I kind of I'm at the point now where I kind of know if I toss something in, I don't bother weighing the pack and stuff like that. So
yeah,
and I'm not going out for any big stuff like that. I would love to do a big trip, but it seems like I'm too busy answering emails about exactly the stuff we've been talking about for the last 3 hours.
This is fascinating. Honestly,
we could go round 3.
We could definitely go round 3. Yeah, Mike, let us know the next time that you're passing through, because we tried to talk about backpacking. It didn't really happen at all. And despite me being quiet, I enjoyed it thoroughly. I know Chaunce did.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so fun because we talk about backpacking all the time, but this is still like outdoor related, and everyone is a little spooked at night, and everyone sees nature while out on trails. And to hear these kind of stories, I feel like listening to them while you're out on a trail hiking just sparks creative mindset, I feel like you start to wonder, and then you get in this little zone that makes the hiking day more fun.
So Heather Inish Anderson, she wrote a book. She's written a few books, but one of them is called Mud, Blazes, and
Mud, Sweat, Tears.
Mud, Sweat, Blazes. I wrote it down. Mud, Rocks, Blazes.
Yeah, that's it.
So and that's a remarkable story. It's a rough book. Wow, she really pushed herself. But you read the whole book, and at the very end, it kind of reaches this kind of magical culmination. I don't know, I don't want to give anything away, but when she makes a phone call to her mother, when she finally breaks the record, and wow, I cried. I listened to it on audio. It wasn't her reading it. It wasn't a voice actor reading it. But wow, was it beautiful. But leading up to that, the final days on the trail, where she's not keeping track of her mileage. She's not worrying about, she doesn't know if she had an experience with a bunch of owls on the trail. She just right in the book. And I asked her about it. And then there's a couple other things. There's bears, owls, and there's these little birds in paper bags. It is so...
Birds in paper bags?
I don't want to give any... Well, so she's walking down the trail, and there's bird biologists, and they're weighing and tagging songbirds. And they just put them in a brown paper bag. And then she goes, "What are you doing?" And they explain. And then the lady says, "Do you want to let the birds go?" She said, "I can." He said, "Oh, yeah, just something." So you open the bag, and then these little itty bitty sweet songbirds would fly out of the bag. It was that is if that was dream language, it would be so perfect and so beautiful. In the core of that story, that is so touching. That is a metaphor for her entire trip. Just she got to the end and she got to release these little birds into the sky. It's just magical. So I'm saying that these experiences exist without the UFO. So she had owls, bears, and little birds in her paper bags. It's really sweet how that book ends. I apologize. The spoilers all over it. That's just what I said. So
yeah, I think that's a good teaser for the book, if anything. Mike, we'd love to have you on for a third episode the next time you're passing through
Fourth,
Colorado.
fifth,
Yeah.
seventh.
These are fun. But please let the listeners know where they should go to keep up with you, latest books, where they should buy the books, etc.
So Amazon is an easy way to find the books. You can find me at mikeclelland.com. There's a whole bunch of things you can click off of. There's the books. And there is a little chapter where it talks about my outdoor work, the lightweight work I did. And that will take you to the lightweight book. But there's the owl books. And then if you can't remember my name, you can just Google UFOs Owls. I'm the first thing that comes up. You'll have no problem finding me. Oh, and I wrote a novel. I'm a novelist now.
We didn't even talk about it.
And there's
Sorry,
ultralight
we're
backpacking.
really shitty interviewers.
There's ultralight backpacking in like the first third of the first 25% of the novel is got some ultralight backpacking in. But it's
Give us the elevator pitch for the novel. What's like the general like storyline? Like what's the back of the page synopsis?
So a disillusioned artist walks into the desert and goes on a lonely odyssey and arrives in a little town. And at that town, he's confronted with all kinds of mystical, magical events, including things with owls. And there's like it's a kind of a thriller that turns into. So the way I describe it is the first quarter of the book is like the dialogue in his head, and the remainder of the book is a detective novel. He's trying to figure out what is this mystery, and so there's a surface story, but below that, I was trying to tell a mythic, archetypal fable.
Cool.
You are a bona fide artist in many ways, and we're very appreciative for you to join us again on Backpacker Radio.
Well, thanks for like that whole thing I said at the end there. Like, wow, I gotta. Sometimes I don't share so much because unless there's time, it just doesn't work to just throw that out there. But this has been great, and I listen to your show all the time. I love this show. Yeah, so
appreciate that. Thank you. To the Trek propaganda portion of today's show. That was a fun interview.
Yeah. I love those.
Yeah.
I don't know. We could have talked about ultralight backpacking
Honestly,
lot.
From my perspective, that was a very fast 3 hours.
I just think he liked me more.
He definitely did.
Did you notice
you
that?
You were more, I think you give a more paranormal vibe.
You think?
Yeah. I think girls in general do.
Are you spooked by girls?
Am I spooked by girls? I'm not spooked by girls.
Okay. It kind of seemed like it.
But no, I think like astrology kind of put in the same general sphere. It tends to be female dominated.
Yeah, but I'm not like a crystal girl.
See, and that's the stereotype that he's using of the ladies in Sedona.
Yeah, I didn't understand that the first time. I thought like maybe we'd be in trouble because he was saying something not great about like any type of person.
No, it's just like.
But then he explained it, and I was like, oh, this is fine.
Yeah. Trek propaganda. Fastest known human. This woman just beat the men's speed record on the Florida Trail by Katie Jackson. Of course, 26-year-old Florida native Deanna Doan rewrote the record books on, let me zoom in here, my poor eyesight, 1,100-mile Florida Trail this week, setting a new overall supported record, 19 days, 12 hours, 13 minutes, that not only tops previous benchmarks, but also shatters the supported men's record, which is Hunter Leininger, 21 days, 11 hours, 8 minutes. You want the full scoop there, head to the link in the show notes. But she also touches on the context of the fact that this was at least the second woman in the past year to outperform the men's overall record. Obviously, we had Tara Dower on the podcast, which was also a fun interview. I'm just going to hit this one quickly. New contributor, Shiraya Smith. You think that's something?
That's how you know it's a new contributor.
How would you try to pronounce that?
Shiraya.
Shiraya, okay. Sorry, Shiraya, if that's not how you say it.
This is stereotypical Zach.
Yeah, I don't know how to say anything. 7 delicious Northside dinner ideas you need to try according to an AT thru hiker. I really like this piece because the recipes are simple. Sometimes I see like these backpacker on the trek. Sometimes I see these recipes and I know that I'm not going to execute on them because there are too many steps. We're about to get
What are you looking for?
The light is about to go crazy. This one's easy. All of them are a Northside plus another ingredient. So like if you're a basic bitch like myself, this one's for you. But the two that she highlights in this article that I'm most excited to try is the marinara pasta with pepperoni and creamy pesto pasta side with tomato basil tuna. As a North Side gal, what are your combos? What's your one favorite combo?
I just like adding powdered milk and powdered butter to everything.
Yeah, fair.
And I also
turn into an Alfredo.
I like to take, like, you know those little things that you can put needles in? Not like drug needles, but like sewing needles. Like, it's like a little holder that holds the needles. You can also get one of those and fill it with like a powder. Again, not drugs. Like garlic powder.
To specify, you can also put drugs in there.
You could, but that's not part of my meal. My meal is
as
saying
for dessert
that you could put like garlic powder into a small little needle thing, barely add any weight.
Yeah.
And tossing a garlic powder.
If someone wanted to put drugs in one of those, what drugs would you recommend?
Garlic powder. I'm not falling for this. Garlic powder. You can put garlic powder in your pasta side with some powdered butter, with some powdered milk, and a little bit less water than you typically want. And that's the laziest, easiest thing that I do. Like, I, on the PCT, pre-packed 8 ounce portions of, not 8 ounce. It was some sort of portion I determined off of my scale. I packed some sort of quantity of powdered milk and powdered butter, and I would never use a whole one for one pasta side, but I would use a whole one throughout a resupply. And so I vacuum sealed these, and I'd cut it open on my resupply, and I'd put some into the pasta side, and it would just taste delightful, and then I'd retape it back down with my Leukotape and keep it for like the rest of the resupply. So for me, simply adding powdered butter and powdered milk and maybe a little bit of spice is like huge if you don't want to add a step of like packing out something extra.
I don't know if this company still exists, but I got this at OR, I want to say, as like a sample. One company was selling dehydrated bone broth. And I was adding that to a lot of dishes, especially that was at a time where I was like super geeked out on nutrition and health. I'm still kind of that way. But I also eat Oreos. I eat Oreos. Like, there's a time in my life where like
how many nutritional
I would eat an
supplements do you
Oreo
take?
during my cheat meal of the week. That's sort of
How many vitamins do you take a day?
I take a lot.
Yeah, so you're still there.
Yeah. But yeah, the dehydrated bone broth was also like a good kick up to meals. It always added either a good beef or chicken-ness to it. All right, question of the day. Is this you or is this Rachel?
I don't know.
If you could train any animal to be your hiking companion, what would it be and what special skills would it have?
Yes. It's hard because part of me wants...
Say owl?
No. Part of me wants to lean towards a cat-like animal, and then part of me wants to lean towards a dog-like animal. But then I think which one could take down a grizzly? Because I would want my animal hiking companion to be one that could just give me a fucking peaceful night of sleep. Because I hate sounds at night. The dark comes and it gets spooky and I don't like it and I'm scared and I hear any noise and I just have anxiety. So if I had like a cheetah hiking companion, not only can that thing like maybe carry me on its back up the uphills, but
There's a lot of animals that could actually carry you on their back on the uphills.
But I could actually like sleep very well at night, cuddling this cute little cheetah cat.
Yeah.
And not worry.
What about like a buffalo?
About something coming into camp.
You think a grizzly's gonna fuck with a buffalo?
I don't see buffalo being particularly fast, so that would be their downfall. Is they're not agile. Yeah. So a grizzly could run behind them and swipe at me, and the buffalo probably can't turn around fast enough.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like, how long is a cheetah carrying you? Because cheetahs aren't that heavy.
Well, I don't need it to carry me the whole way. Otherwise, I just take a plane. But I could, like, you know, if I get tired on the uphill, I can ride for a little bit. The main thing is I get a good night's sleep. I want to be convinced that whatever animal I take with me is going to give me a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
And maybe I go with silverback gorilla, if that's the case. But, like, they're not as cute.
You just want the apex predator.
Yeah, I want an apex predator that is cute.
Okay. Well, I also chose grizzly as like a security guard / just to let the other grizzlies know that, hey, I'm cool. We're all cool here.
Yeah.
I'm on your team. But since you took that, my backup one.
I never said grizzly.
You said a bear.
No, I said either dog-like or cat-like. I wanted to defend me against
And
a
then
bear.
you went on to say a grizzly.
No, I said a silverback gorilla.
You said that at the end. We'll run back the tape. Don't worry.
I never said a grizzly. I said it could defend me against a grizzly. I said it couldn't be a buffalo because a grizzly could run behind the buffalo and the buffalo wouldn't turn around fast enough. But that was talking about a buffalo.
Okay. Grizzly would be my choice, or I'll go with a chimp. A chimp trained to check me for ticks. So like when they
yeah, go through all your little hairs on your body. And eat your bugs.
Yeah.
Nice. What's 300 roast mean?
So I was trying to think of like fun things we could do for the 300th episode.
Are you gonna
I think
roast me?
I think the interview suffices for that. But it's funny because I started to write roast
Did
jokes.
you prepare it?
Oh
come on, give me what you got.
I did one and then
Yeah, give it to me.
I got distracted.
Do a mini roast. Let's see what you got.
Chaunce had to skip the roller coaster section of the AT because she wasn't tall enough to ride.
That's funny. I did hike it though. I thought it was quite fun.
That's all I got.
Oh.
I came
Okay,
up,
we'll
I came up with
workshop
that.
that.
I came up
We'll
with
workshop
it.
that.
No, that's good. That's
you could
good.
do that for 350.
Okay.
I'll
350.
prepare something too.
Yeah.
Now that I know.
Yeah. I want people to submit their roast jokes for us.
Yeah,
Because we got the
please.
best haiku. No, what was it?
It was a haiku.
Was it a haiku?
No, haiku's 3 lines. It was a. What do you call those? The poems.
Some sort of a
A limerick.
limerick. There it is. Yeah, we got the greatest limerick of all time. So
All
if there's
time.
anyone out there that has roast joke capabilities to that person's limerick capabilities, I would be honored to read those on air.
Yeah, I will respect any roast as long as it doesn't come in the form of a 1-star review, because that just is intending to hurt.
Yeah, no, send us an email podcast.
Yeah,
to
send
check
us an
out.
email
Or
roast us with a 5-star review.
there you go. It's-
Like anything to let us know, like, hey, this is in good humor and
Yeah.
not in hateful spite.
Yeah, we have pretty thick skin. Whose skin? Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yours? Are you kidding? It's just fucking soft.
Okay, Triple Crown. This is the Triple Crown of internet memes. I feel like this is probably me, but this is also low hanging fruit. Start.
Okay, did you mean like internet memes that like you relate to, or just all internet memes?
Any direction you want to go.
Okay, I'll start because I'm gonna need to think a little more in the interim. But my first one is the girl that's at the game in the yellow raincoat and she's eating the cotton candy and she's like, ah, you know?
No.
Shut up. Yes, you do. Hold on. Cotton candy girl.
I thought for sure the first pick would be something that's like, oh yeah.
Cotton candy girl is me. I am cotton candy girl, and people know what I'm talking about. I'll show you cotton candy girl. She became a meme. This is an ad. It's not our ads, so you don't even have to listen.
A little girl in Seattle is capturing hearts all over the internet thanks to her Jumbotron debut at a Mariners game.
Yeah, it is topping our stories now trending. Here, take a look at this video. This is right here. This is Beatrix Hart.
By the way,
there,
yeah.
Cotton candy all over her face.
Yeah, so that look of like crazy in her eyes that she gets right there, that's me.
That's like a universal kid thing because the twins do this a lot.
It's just like pent up sugar.
You bad to the bone? Yeah!
Oh my god, they're so cute.
That I have better examples, but they literally just will start screaming violently at each other. Like,
I love that.
they're in a very cute phase right now. Okay, I don't know if I've ever actually seen that before, but
Wow,
that's
okay.
neither here nor there. My first pick is I have to go with the best meme, the black dude with the massive cock.
Sorry.
You've seen this 1,000 times.
Have I?
Jesus. Oh no.
Did you just Google black dude with massive cock?
Yeah, I should add meme to the end of this.
That's
Okay.
better than the time you Googled child porn.
His name is yeah, because the previous results I were getting was not what I was looking for. If you add meme to the end of it, you get exactly what you're looking for. But yeah, this guy. Everybody knows this guy. You've never seen that before?
No.
Are you serious?
No.
There've been like a million times where friends will send like the most timely news article. It's like Trump projected to win 2024 election, and then you click the link and it's just this guy's cock.
Yeah, but that's because your group chats are like big
Amazing.
dudes, dick and dude dicks.
Yeah, that I mean,
you know, like that's what your group chats are named.
It is, if we're gonna be pedantic about it, dirty dicks. Oh, it's changed recently. Dirty Dickle down, dirty Denver Dicks delegation of puns.
Right, that's where you will find those fake links.
I promise you, at least every guy in the world has seen this meme a million times.
Yeah.
All right.
What's your
Someone
next
roast
one?
Chaunce for not knowing this guy because everybody knows this guy. My next one is this is my favorite old school meme, and it's still funny to me. Rickroll.
Okay, yeah, that's always a good one.
Yeah. And it's kind of in the same vein when you're clicking a link to one thing and then you end up with Rick Ansley or Big Black Dick. They're both a lot of fun.
Okay. I'm going to go with the I Like Turtles zombie kid.
Okay.
Do you know him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That one I do know.
That one's always funny.
Yeah.
You can go back and rewatch it at any time.
Yeah.
And then my third one, oh, this is hard. But I'm going to go with like an OG. This isn't like when it was the cartoon faces that were just like having a lot of wrinkles, you know, those ones. The early memes. You know, the early memes when it looked like this.
Oh, yeah. Those aren't, I mean, I guess.
That's how memes started.
Is it?
Yeah, it was literally that, like the LOL face, the challenge accepted face, the forever alone, the fuck yeah, the troll face. Those ones are all the.
I would say like hieroglyphics are how memes started, but go ahead.
But I think the word meme caught on with those cartoon faces.
Okay.
But one of the early ones when it became picture with text over the picture is the Ermagerd girl. Ermagerd goosebumps. Or Gersperms.
I don't know if you've seen that one.
Shut up.
Yeah.
The Ermagerd?
I would say this is not a different generational thing because the ones I gave are more contemporary, but.
This is like when the internet started being the internet.
Yeah.
This is when it started being fun.
I've never seen it.
Okay, listeners, you know what I'm talking about. The girl that has the very 80s look and she's holding the 3 Goosebump books and it says Ermagerd Gersperms, and then you just like take other words and you put it there.
I want to do a poll of people that are familiar with giant black penis guy versus that one. And
Have you never said Ermagerd?
I honestly don't know.
Wow.
Probably not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Different times.
Yeah. For my last trick, I have a couple of honorable mentions, but I can't not say this one in my draft, is the who do you think you are, I am guy.
Yeah. I wish you a happy 13th on that one.
No, that is still my favorite thing on the internet that's ever existed.
Yeah, I will say I did go bowling a week ago, and I never got a strike because I'm very bad at bowling, but I got a spare one time.
Nice.
And I yelled that, and no one laughed. Uncultured.
That is
people.
embarrassing for
Everyone,
you for having
everyone
friends
but me. No, it's not embarrassing for me. It's everyone but me.
No, you associate with people that wouldn't
Spin the
know
wheel.
that. You spin the wheel.
That's my third call out. Take it.
Yeah.
What do you think you are? I am. What'd you get?
Those cups that I just cleaned.
I hope to God I don't get shot.
Ooh,
Yes!
That was very close.
Oreo!
That was very close.
Thank God.
Well, Tech's not finishing that beer.
Well, hey, you only hit 300 once, so soak it up while you're here.
Yeah.
Enjoy your shot.
Hey, let's cheers. I'm gonna cheers your Oreo.
Oh, I'm not hungry yet.
You've lost the wheel. There are rules to this game. I can't say that I'm not thirsty.
True. Okay, fine. Think.
Cheers. I never drink whiskey.
Whenever this many Oreos in my sitting.
There you go. I used to drink whiskey.
Oh, this mailbag, I just realized. Sorry. Honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Hide your kids guy.
Yep. We're a line there.
Or the leprechaun sketch. The
Yes.
amateur sketch.
Yeah. That's yes.
Gold.
Yeah, that is very funny. I think you should leave guy in the hot dog suit. Like who did this? The guy who crashes into the building with an Oscar Mayer wiener and he's dressed as a hot dog. And it's like, who did this? The guy dressed as a hot dog. You've seen this, I promise you've seen this.
What's the name of the guy? You said something in the beginning?
Tim Robbins is his name.
No, you said it's the something guy.
The hot dog guy.
But you said the something else guy.
Oscar Mayer.
No, you've referred to him from somewhere.
Oh, we're all trying to find the guy who did this. You've never seen that?
I don't think so.
Jesus Christ, Chaunce.
Is he the one that's like the 20 cheeseburgers, 20 fries?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And
That
we
one's funny.
did the drinking game of if you don't laugh, I will chug a beer. If you do laugh, you have to chug a beer.
Oh, and I won.
You did. You're the only person that's ever won that, which makes me think that you're dead inside.
No, I just had my brother come up to me a lot and say, hey, look at this funny thing. And then I would just intentionally not find it funny. So I've gotten very good at holding my laughter.
Okay. And my last one is, I'm just including this one because I probably use it the most in terms of like when I'm using GIF reactions, is the Jack Nicholson, like crazy, like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very you one.
yeah. I also think of Tom when I think of that face for some reason.
Jabba?
Yeah.
Okay. It's weird that you call him Tom.
Yeah, it is weird. Okay. Mailbag.
Yeah, this one's fun just because of the sign off. Hey y'all, just listened to the Katie Double Dip episode. Such a hoot. I'd like to make some animal related comments. 1. Cows are not too bright and won't run or move in a group of lightning. No, move out of a group in lightning. C. https press.princeton.edu/ideas/lightning-and-animals. 2. This also came on my feed today.
Let's give some context. So I'll give the chat GPT summary here. Lightning is a major threat to animals, especially those in open spaces. In 2016, 323 reindeer in Norway died from a single strike while huddled together. Cows are also vulnerable, often struck in fields or under trees, leading to significant losses for farmers.
What about bison? They're often together in fields.
Yeah, I think this is just an article summarizing like which animals get struck by lightning the most. And cows are up there.
Number 2, this also came on my feed today. https://www.thefarside.com/2024/12/06/0. This link tends to end very quickly, and I don't see how to attach an image here.
Did you read The Far Side growing up?
No.
Really? Okay. That's another generational gap.
You can explain this link?
Let's see. This link tends to end very quickly. I don't see how to attach an image here. There's several cartoons. Oh, wait. The specific link. No, that didn't work for me. The link just goes to the homepage.
Number 3, don't let an animal lick your face or especially your mouth. Their mouths are gross. They eat poop. They lick their own butts. They lick other dogs' butts. I will still let Harper lick my mouth. Sometimes she gets in my mouth, and I'm like, you sneaky girl.
My mom is the queen of, like, pretending to not want a dog to lick her mouth, and then, like, we'll just intentionally leave her mouth open right next to a licking dog's mouth.
Well, sometimes I put my whole mouth over her nose and mouth, just so she sees how it feels.
There's owning it, that you're okay with the dog licking your mouth. That's, I think, normal, especially when it's your dog. That's a normal thing. But, like, to go like, oh, don't do it, and then just holding your mouth open.
To like a random dog.
It's usually a known dog, but not your dog. So, like, my mom will do that to Sierra. She'll do that to my sister's dogs, but, like, and then she'll pretend like, I can't believe that just happened. Like, Mom, we can all believe that just happened. You were asking for it.
I'll let Harper do whatever she wants, not other dogs, though.
Yeah.
I don't care if I catch a disease. 4, the Frito smell is typically a sign of foot infection. C, https://www.vin.com/vets with a Z insight/default.aspx PLD equals
All right,
756.
stop that. You give Chaunce enough whiskey, and she will read URLs at you.
No, I wouldn't be able to read if I had enough whiskey. Love the podcast and the blog. Michael, parenthesis, I'm Gizmo Chauncey's old vet. We met at the New York City hiker meetup. This is my 20-year-old cat's vet, guys. He knows what he's talking about when it comes to animals. And when I met him at the New York City meetup and he told me I'm Gizmo's vet, I died. Literally died.
Does Frito feet indicate a foot infection? I know he's a actual vet.
We get memes about Frito feet a lot on the podcast Instagram. We got one as recently as this morning.
I think it's kind of a universal thing. ChatGPT. Does Frito feet indicate a foot infection? I should probably indicate.
You're questioning a vet and going on ChatGPT to prove him wrong?
Hold on. For a dog. Answer. Not necessarily. Fetal feet in dogs is a common and usually harmless odor caused by natural bacteria and yeast on their paws, particularly Proteus and Pseudomonas. These microbes thrive in warm, moist environments between a dog's toes, producing a smell similar to corn chips. However, if the odor becomes especially strong, so he's right, technically speaking, like if it's a really strong
He's a vet that's worked for decades in his field.
Yeah, but I've smelled a lot of dogs' feet, and unless all dogs have like a potentially dangerous fungus between their feet, then it just seems like it's too universal to be.
So you're smarter than the vet.
Yeah.
That's worked decades in his
I met
field.
him. He was a super nice guy. I believe him, but
You believe that you're more right.
I'm also choosing to accept ChatGPT's answer because it validates what I would like to believe.
Okay. There's a problem with that going around.
But thank you, Gizmo, for...
No, Gizmo's my cat. Thank Michael.
No, I was thanking your cat.
Okay.
It sounded like a cool trail name.
That second shot's hitting, huh?
It's not. Okay. To the 5-star review. This is from R.I.P. Unzel. Not 1, 2, 3, or 4. 5 stars for the team behind the podcast. It helps get me through my corporate 9-to-5 desk job. I usually start podcasts with episode 1 and work my way to the most recent release, but y'all have provided a steady stream of episodes with awesome guests and backcountry banter, and I haven't caught up yet. I was holding off since episode 4, thinking someone else would have brought this up already, but I think Chaunce missed out on a gem of a trail name. What are the odds Chaunce would change your trail name if it sounded cute?
That's the way to start the approach. Yeah, I'm listening.
I mean, that's clearly a reference to something.
Yeah, and I feel like he's about to get to it, too.
Okay, the time that Chaunce tried sitting on a rock to pee and ended up getting tree sap and leaves stuck on her butt cheeks. I know she already had a trail name, but seriously, why aren't you calling her Sweet Cheeks or Sticky Buns?
Because those aren't cute. That's gross.
Sticky Buns is pretty
Sweet
nice.
Cheeks? Hey, Sweet Cheeks. You think I want every man on trail being like, hey, Sweet Cheeks?
Sticky Buns is acceptable.
I'm violated saying that out loud.
What about Sticky Buns? Would you take an honorary trail name?
Not if it's referring to my ass. That's
It's
not
a fun
cute.
story.
Yeah, but it's a gross story. I want a cute. He had me caught on cute. I want something talking about my cute little demeanors, not my
Cute
gross,
little demeanor.
not my gross sticky bum.
In your dream world, what would be a cute trail name based on your demeanors?
I don't know. If I found it, I would do it.
All right. Please make Chauncey play odds for this. That's an idea. Anyway, you guys rock. Hope to see you in the Midwest in the future. From R.I.P. Are we going to the Midwest anytime?
Not that I know.
We had someone reach out saying that they would give me Cubs tickets, so maybe we can do. We need to find the closest trail to Chicago.
Well, we are going to Texas. Is that the Midwest?
No, that's like
The Mid-South?
it's the time zone of the Midwest, but yeah, we're pretty south.
It's not the Deep South.
No, it's not.
It's the Mid-South.
What region would you call Texas? It's not the Midwest.
It's the Mid-South.
Sure, Southmouth. If you guys want to hear your review read on this podcast, head on over to Apple and leave us any number of stars.
Just like the review said, not 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Yeah. And you can roast us.
You can with a 5 stars. So we know that it's playful. Don't just be mean.
Maybe meaner to me than Chaunce.
No, you can be as mean to me as you want, but don't give us 1 star with it.
Yeah.
That's just mean. Be cute mean.
You said that your skin is thinner, and I don't want you to... Your skin
Yeah,
to
but
be
if it comes with a
penetrated.
5-star review, I know it's in good taste.
Okay.
I can laugh at myself.
Yeah.
But what I can't laugh at is someone just like 1 star roasting me
Fuck
and just
you, I
being
hate you.
genuinely mean.
Yeah.
That hurts.
Technically, they can still do that because we don't have any control, but they just
Yeah.
won't have
But
their
know that I don't read it. I remember how I used to say I stay up late in my tent and I read these at night. I have learned better. I don't do that. Now I just read the nice ones that Rachel sends through. So if you're leaving any 1-star ones with mean things that you think is going to like really hit deep, I don't see them.
Yeah.
So if you want me to see it, not 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And send a screenshot of your review to podcast@thetrack.co, and we will send you a sticker. I am happy to say that since the last podcast, I've actually sent stickers out in the mail. So
How many?
It's happening. 3.
Where does that put us in the queue?
I think I'm only 2 behind. One of them, they didn't send their address, so I have to follow up. But there's steps in the works. Guys, listen, I have 300 unread emails that I have to get
That's
back
why
to.
I'm amazed you're taking on this task.
We keep making the promise. I feel like an asshole, and it's right now it's me or nobody, so
That's true.
it's me. Thank you to today's title sponsor, LMNT. Use our URL drinklmnt.com/trek for a free sample pack. We love Element. I drink one every day. I probably should have one tonight.
I'm going to have one before bed.
Yeah. They're great. Electrolytes on trail are very important. I've had hyponatremia. You don't want hyponatremia. That sucks. Element's flavors are delicious, and they are also sugar-free, so you can drink one every day and no calories.
And if you're not sure which flavor you'd like, because you've heard us talk about a bunch of different flavors, and you're like, I'm not just going to buy a bunch of boxes, like that adds up. The nice thing about our code is with any purchase, you get a free sample pack, so you can try each flavor. So get the flavor you think you want most. Citrus is a safe bet.
Citrus.
And then try the sample pack, feel out the other flavors, and then when you need to go re-up, then you know which flavor you want to try.
Yep.
It's a very safe way to not, like, buy things that you actually don't like.
And using our URL is also a great way to support the podcast.
Yes.
We're very grateful to Element for supporting us. And genuinely, both Chaunce and I love their product.
Yeah, I'm thoroughly addicted.
When they stop sponsoring us, they've sent us enough product that I'll drink it forever.
Day.
Yeah.
Well, I've once had the thought of, like, do they expire?
Unlikely. Yeah. I mean, like, everything expires, but...
Will I expire first?
Depends if you see an owl.
Yeah. All right. Tune back to round 3.
Yeah. Thank you to our Chuck Norris Award winners on Patreon. Wait, we had a new one. Did it get added here?
The hood one.
Is it in here?
I don't know. No.
Well, you say something cool.
I don't see it.
Why add it?
Cool Things with Chaunce. It's a segment that we're doing where I tell you something cool. I'm eating a cookie.
Nice. Fucking stuck the landing there. That was great.
Thanks.
All right. I'm going to start with the new one because I don't do alphabetical order on the spot. Carl Hood, you had some fun riffs.
Oh, I was just giving you suggestions.
Oh, this is you.
No, it's okay. I've done quite enough. You need to do a few more.
Hood Rat.
That was the exact one that he said you'd probably go with.
Yeah, he.
Was
I think he incepted it.
No, it's neither of my suggestions, but
Yeah.
fine.
Hood River.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's a little too on the nose for a backpacking podcast. I want something spicier.
Well, that's like when I gave hoodoo, because it's spelled hood with ooh at the end.
Yeah.
And that was kind of outdoor themed. Hoodie.
We'll polish this one.
Yeah.
Alex and Misty with Navigators Crafting. Alex Kindle. Andrew, Austin McDaniel, Brad and Blair from 13 Adventures, Brent Stenberg, Brian Alsop,
Fables,
Christopher Marshburn, Coach from Marine Outdoors, Derek Cook, Eric Casper,
Friendly Ghost,
Eric Hoffman, Ethan Harwell Dunn, Jillian Daniels, Greg Knight, Greg Martin, Greg McDaniel, Griffin Hay, Would You Bring Me a Beer, Haley Buckingham,
Palace,
Tom, Patrick C. in Seattle, Rebecca Brave, Sawyer Products, Spam, Timothy Hahn,
Solo,
and Tracy Trigger. Thanks to our guy, Paulie, from Old Man Murph's Coffee Roasters. Go to ommcr.com to get some delicious beans. You can follow us on social at Backpacker Radio on Instagram and TikTok, at BackpackerPod on X, Facebook.com/Backpacker Radio. You can follow Chaunce.
You can find me on Instagram at Juliana_Chauncey, on YouTube at Juliana Chauncey, and you can get my book, Hiking from Home, a long distance hiking guide for family and friends, on Amazon.
Appalachian Trials and Pacific Crest Trials are my books. We'll be very grateful for a review. Chaunce would too. Subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on YouTube.
Hi, Internet.
What's up, YouTube? You get to witness the spinning wheel on this one. There's a very strong, visible chemistry between today's guest and Chaunce, which
Yeah, he liked me more.
definitely did.
Doesn't happen often, but I'll take it when I can.
When you're right, you're right. And that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for listening for 300 episodes. We are honest.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be doing this without you guys. If you've listened to one episode, if you listened to 300, if you sent us an email, if you sent us an Instagram comment, honestly, we couldn't be more appreciative that you guys pay attention to this thing, because we sincerely love doing it.
Yeah, if you asked me on day one if I thought we would get to 300 episodes, I'd be like, what?
I didn't know if we'd get to 3 episodes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 300 seems supernatural.
Kind of nutty. Thanks for being on this weird spacecraft with us.
Happy hiking.
Bye.